hello, and welcome to episode 101. We could call it Series 2, Number 1, but I like 101, Mark, because we know the old Room 101, which is a little bit like our Carp Not Sheep kind of feature that people used to like. So, happy 101.
Yes, happy 101. Welcome back even.
Welcome back. Yes, I know we keep promising to make this regular and weekly and whatever, and I'm not going to say again, but that we're going to try to. But we're going to try to. Are we having a slaphead off here? It's not the same being on video, is it?
No, geez, look. Oh mate, I'm going to start wearing a hat. Look out. Oh mate, getting old. Do you know I was 45 recently, and I think I'm having a bit of a crisis. I'm going to have a closet cut. There's no way about it.
You've got.
Oh, there we go. Comb over.
I was going to say you've got long hair. You can definitely do a comb over. You
get a nice swirl going on. It's like the old, remember the old Hamlet advert where he's in the photo booth and he just.
It actually suits you there with a bit of hair at the front. Do that again. Apologies to the people that are listening to this on their phones and not watching it.
Oh yeah. Oh, if you are on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and all the good stuff.
Yeah, actually, just while let's do a bit of business while we're talking about this.
Housekeeping.
Housekeeping is the exact word I'm looking for. We're hoping to make this fairly regular now. We're going to try and do it weekly. Obviously, it won't be every single week. And then towards the end of the month, we'll do a special one, a little bit like our episode 100, where we'll have a load of guests all on at the same time and have a bit of fun, maybe a drink. Frank and I can drink ourselves into oblivion and talk rubbish. But in the meantime, it would greatly help us. When we used to do shows regularly all the time, you'll have been subscribed on your podcast app so that it automatically downloads to your app. What happens is when we haven't done an episode for a long time is it will have automatically unsubscribed. So please, if you never donate to us or help us out financially, at least click subscribe on whatever app you're using, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or if you watch us on YouTube, or even if you don't watch us on YouTube, please go to YouTube and click the subscribe button, because there are ways for us to make a little bit of money on the side through all these other means, but it really, really helps us if you click subscribe. So yeah, please can you do that, because it will have unsubscribed if you did used to be subscribed. So yeah, that's a bit of housekeeping, Mark. We might have a look at ways. Facebook has an option where you can do a paid event as well. So maybe once a month or something, we'll try and get a few guests and maybe people can donate £1 or something to listen. I don't know, £1.50, maybe a £5. Who knows? I don't know, but £100 each, 10 minutes. No. I joke. I jest. We have got lots of plans though for the new incarnation. It's not going to be a lot different from the old one, except I'm all fired up to do it again. I feel quite motivated to be talking to the fishing public after a break.
Yeah, and you're going to be able to see our faces. Instead of just like putting us off in the car as you're driving around, you're going to put YouTube on, and I'm not sure if it's a good thing, really.
Not when you're driving, no.
But, no, don't drive and watch us.
When we first met, you had about as many grey hairs in your chinny beard as I've got, Mark. You've got a full-on Gandalf white beard, and mine's
I'm a Gandalf.
definitely.
I need a big. Do you think I'd suit a big cape and a big staff that I can just say, "You shall not pass"?
Definitely, or a Dumbledore, maybe.
No, more of a Gandalf. Gandalf's badass. Dumbledore's just a bit of a teacher.
Nah, he's all right. He's all right, little fake wise man.
Oh, if you're going to go down that sort of path in like the supernatural, how about the Red Woman from Game of Thrones? I have numerous fantasies about her.
I'm still. Oh, I've got a horrible thought in my mind now. Thanks to that, but I've still not watched Game of Thrones, although it is on the list now. I mean, we've got another. We're in the middle of another lockdown, aren't we? So, the fishing's crap at the minute. I mean, we are allowed to fish days only. If you go local, although how that's being enforced, I don't know. Have you heard of anyone night fishing at the minute, Mark?
I've heard one or two stories of friends who are, or syndicates who are letting people get away with it, and
yeah,
I don't know. It's all a bit cloak and dagger, but I'll be honest, if I was night fishing at the minute, I wouldn't be shouting about it. I certainly wouldn't be putting anything on Facebook, and any night shots of fish would be reappearing. They'd be about 3 weeks after lockdown had ended. Look what I've just caught.
Yeah, and you know, you've only got to look on Twitter and you see a well-known angler, Adam Penning's been quite vocal about his he's against the lockdowns, and especially when it comes to children and stuff and people's mental health, which I do sympathise quite a bit. I mean, as we know, he's a vocal advocate last time, you know, about fishing, and hey, I'm not a hypocrite, you know. I was fishing last time on a private lake, you know, there with the blessing of the owners, and but I mean, it was spring last time, you know. It's bloody minus God knows what. It's -2 in Blackpool tonight, as we talk on this Tuesday evening.
Yes, it's pretty chilly. I mean, this tripod I've got in front of me, I had to go and get it out of the boot of the car, and it was already starting to ice up, and that was a couple of hours ago.
Yeah, it's been
now, what time are we on now? We're on 8:30. So
evening, obviously.
You don't think anyone's does 8:30 in the morning, do you?
There's only one 8:30 in my day, and it's not the one in the morning. I can assure you. But no, I mean, we're not really missing much. If we're going to lock down, or if we're going to, you know, knuckle down at home, get some work done, then it's now, really, isn't it? So we aren't missing any fishing yet. It's nice to get out for the odd day for sanity, but we're not missing a lot, are we? Let's be honest.
No, definitely not with the fishing. I'd rather swim around a lake than be fishing in it right now. And even I can't do that. Not with protection, where I usually swim anyway. I can go for a sneaky private swim, but then...
Protection, privates? I mean, where's this going?
Yeah. Well, let's be honest. I'll go for a swim, which my last swim was when the water was 5 degrees. There was no such thing as privates when you got out. Everything was inside out.
I must
at
have
least
asked
half an hour.
I must have asked this before. I mean, it's obviously quite clear when you're swimming a lot in the cold. The water, I'm guessing, is clearer. Are you seeing a lot? Are you seeing any fish? Are you seeing the bottoms? Like,
I'll tell you a story in a minute, but where I'm swimming in the winter, it's deep. You know, I'm talking 30, 40 foot in some places. Even though it is clear, you're not seeing a lot. There's still a surprising amount of Canadian in sort of like, you know, 10 foot or less, you know, up to nearly the surface. But where it's deeper than that, you're not seeing the bottom. But have you... I know you've heard of it. There's a park lake. It's known for its big perch, shall we say.
Yeah.
Not a million miles from where I live. And I've had a couple of organised swims in there. There is carp to 50 plus in there. Or there has been. I don't know what currently in there.
Quite shallow, isn't it? It's shallow and weedy, that one I'm thinking of.
It is, yeah. A lot of it's shallow, but down the end where we swim, you're talking, you know, 10 to 12 foot, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
But there were some interesting spots when we saw down there. There's one. It was like imagine an old branch. I'm talking, you know, thick branch laid across the bottom, and like at one spot, maybe about at least the width of a brolly. There's an absolute crater just been like scooped out underneath, with obviously like a rubbing spot where they've carp or probably the big bream, knowing my luck. They've been rubbing against this branch, you know, and they've just battered the bottom. And literally about 30, 40 yards from that spot, on the same swim route, we're going around the buoys, there was another spot, similar sort of thing with the big crater that's been, you know, rubbed out. But right in the middle of it, about that sort of circle, was like an old piece of ironwork.
Yeah.
Again, I'm thinking the carp, they've had a bit of a scratch on it, got rid of the leeches and what have you, and carried on.
That's got to be a spot, that's,
you know, smashing the bottom. Oh yeah, I stopped, stuck my head up, had a quick claw, triangulated my position from a couple of swims that were in range, as you do, and then never went back to fish it.
You need a little GPS with you now. I mean, obviously everyone's got them on like bait boats and stuff, but yeah, you can GPS like a little spot.
A little Tom.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah. I'll be honest, the GPS is not great. When I've trapped my swim, it thinks I'm zigzagging.
Yeah.
But I'm doing front crawl, so it's in and out of the water all the time, so I just use it for doing my times.
Interesting. Did you get any carpy Christmas presents?
No.
Okay.
I got some nice pants, but I'm not showing. Well, I've got them.
It's okay.
I'm actually wearing some Christmas pants from a company called Oddballs. Which,
okay. Is that for after you've been swimming?
It is. No, I'll tell you what. There you go. Show you the top. Oddballs.
Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
Go online to the Oddballs website. I think it's just called My Oddballs. And it's a certain percentage of every purchase goes towards nut cancer research.
Okay.
Get on the Oddballs.
Yeah. I've got the Russian equivalent.
Oddbalski.
Ujinik the other Balakov. Yeah, Balakovs. Yeah, so yeah, I don't think I got anything. Oh, I got a little tool off the missus's dad. Got little, looks like a snowflake, little sort of metal, quite heavy steel star thingy, which doesn't look like much, but every little kind of, and it's circular. I can do this on the camera, and then kind of all the way around it, it's just like a little tool, so there's like a spanner, for doing bikes, and on the ends of the round bits is different kind of drill bits or screwdrivers and stuff, and it's one of them things, the more you look at it, you go, oh, that bit there, that's a bottle opener, or that bit there does this. Like,
you've got a bottle opener, you don't need to look any further.
Exactly. As we know, it was a shout out to Paul Harris, by the way. It was nice to see Paul commenting the other day on the picture you put up, the old Elstow shot of our barbecue days.
I've got a story about that.
Go on.
It's actually right at the side of me, because, as you know, I did a 3-part series in Carp World the year after.
Yeah.
And I've long since lost those copies. I've actually got one.
Yeah? Somebody sent
Went
it?
on eBay and found one.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I bought one off eBay. Just an old back copy, and just for the fact it's me in Carp World against you've got like what, Lee Jackson, Dave Lane, Chili, Steve Briggs, Jenkins, Jules, Chris Paul, and then me.
Yeah,
I felt like it's like I'm the imposter. I shouldn't be in there with that lot, but there I was.
I don't think I ever did an article for Carp World. Possibly one, but I'm not sure on it, because it's always like the royalty, wasn't it? The elite.
Yeah. I tell you what, there is some really interesting things as you're just like flicking through this magazine. I've got to bring this one up because, straight to it, on page 72 in Mike Kavanagh's. I have in Mike Kavanagh's Rig World. Bear in mind this is from February 2004, 16 years back. I don't know if you can see what it says there. Spinner rig variations.
Ah.
So, not accusing companies of finding old rigs and recycling them with a new name for marketing purposes.
Nobody'd ever do that, no.
The spinner rig may be used in many ways. By breaking the seal of the hook eye, diagram 1, and then sliding a 1 centimetre piece of Carper's clear shrink. You know how to make a spinner rig. Yeah,
well, the Carp Arrows, they did a hook for it, didn't they? They actually did a hook with a swivel on the hook, wasn't it? Do you remember?
Yeah, well, they did. I think even before...
Great big one, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's a long shank nailer, I believe.
That's right, yeah.
But I think it was even before that. Gold Label tackle Terry Eustace did like a curved shank with a ring on the eye. Just a straight ring.
Yeah, well, obviously Nash do one of them now, don't they? Oh, here's the dog. Come on, then, dogger.
Everything comes round. There's a few other things in here. There's a picture of a very young-looking Ali Hamidi doing his Bait World article.
Yeah.
With it did make me chuckle because we all, Ali Hamidi is, the Corda man. He's pictured in this article with his best mainline Fox hoodie on.
Yeah.
Obviously pre-Corda days.
Yes.
Where is it? There he is.
I remember the year he went to Corda. I remember it very
I'm assuming
well.
it was shortly after. There he has been for pretty much. And you look through the adverts, there's about half the shops advertising in there have now been assimilated by Angling Direct and no longer exist. Which everyone's got their own opinions on that. That is what it is. But I can't find it straight now, but somewhere in here there's the nominations for Carp Angler of the Year.
Yeah. And
do you remember who was nominated that year? 2004.
I reckon Laney was doing a lot around that time. I reckon.
I believe Laney was one of them.
I'm sure everyone on headphones is loving the page fluttering.
Oh, speaking of Laney, do you recognise the fish as well?
Oh yeah, it's the fat lady. The rotund Cambridgeshire mirror.
How long have we gone before we mentioned it?
Well, you shouldn't have put a picture of Laney up. I would not have mentioned it this episode. We say, but we've done it. We've done it every single time. Shall we do I think we're going to get Tom Ayres in fairly regularly to do a bit of news for us, but I just spoke to him before, and he's told me the topics he's going to talk about. There's a couple of other things you and I were going to look at beforehand when you stopped rustling pages and stuff. Our mics pick everything up, don't they? Yeah, it's always the best magazine on it. It's still going, is it, Cartworld, or has that one stopped?
Unfortunately, it no longer is with us.
What magazines are still out there now? Is it just not Advanced Carp? The other one
still going?
Yeah, Carpology. Obviously, they've always done a great job.
Carpology and Total Carp.
Total Carp. Is that it? Two magazines.
I believe so.
Dog's just forced me to sit back in my chair because she's literally just plonked herself on the table. I can't move now. Yeah, the dog is pregnant. Did I speak on 100 about thinking about breeding the dog?
I've seen it on your Facebook. I can't remember if you mentioned it on the 100, considering it was nearly a year ago. Yeah,
well, it's obviously having no work. I mean, I've not worked since last February. Lost 30-40 grand in Croatia this year trying to get events going and stuff, and there was just no English people, hardly any tourists, so should have stayed at home. I'm now destitute, but.
The destitute.
Destitute, yeah. I've not worked at all. But have you seen the prices that puppies are going for since the first lockdown? I mean, it's a hell of a lot of money. It's hard to get a puppy for under 1,200 quid at the minute. Wow. Some of them are $2,000 a pop. Yeah, it's like a bloody business venture, to the point of criminal gangs are now breaking into people's houses, stealing the dogs, taking them out of gardens. Like it's a real upwards boom in dog theft. So yeah, I know a lot of anglers have got carp dogs. Look after them. Don't leave them anywhere in car. People are smashing windows in cars. I've seen one. Video on Facebook the other day on one of those local police type sites where there's videos, guys tooled up, one had a gun, one had a big machete thing, and they've broad daylight put a chair through a patio window and nicked the 5 puppies inside. I mean, it's 10 grand just sat there, or more depending on what type of puppy it is. There was 4 or 5 of them. You don't want to be bumping into them, but be vigilant with your dogs at the minute. Of course, I'm not breeding mine. I won't have 5 puppies in my house at any point in the next 6 months. I certainly won't let you know how far pregnant she is, but she's definitely getting wider. She's sticking her head up now. She's getting wider on the rib cage, and her boobies are all 10 of them are very large.
She eating for 6?
No, she's not. She's gonna have her appetite's gone, but I've googled it, and that it does seem to be fairly normal. But But yeah, anyway, let's keep it carpy. Our new catchphrase, Mark. Keep it carpy.
Yeah, there's one problem.
What?
I'm the least carpy person who ever has caught a carp.
I know, me too. I'm not carpy in any way.
Every time I hear the term scaly banger, a little bit of me just dies inside.
I just want to bang whoever said it, to be honest. Yeah. That one does wind me up. You know, I don't mind. Like obviously, like the drum and bass kind of movement has crept into carp fishing quite a lot, and I'm down with quite a few of the roadman type sayings. You know, more in a jokey appropriation type way, but like scaly banger just winds me up.
Do you want to know one that's even worse than that?
Go on.
Now, usually when I'm pottering around...
Do you know what, Mark? We've just done some 101s.
Yes, this one is definitely one for 101, and it should have the door locked and the key thrown in acid behind it.
along with the
Now,
perpetrator's hand still holding.
A lot of times when I'm pottering around, I'll just put some YouTube video on, just playing in the ground down, and I'm semi-taking notice of it.
Yeah.
And I can't even remember whose video it was. It was some dude. He's probably a nice lad. And I'm sure he can catch carp. I'm sure he's quite talented at catching carp.
Yeah.
But when he is referring to commons, lovely, nice, big, well-proportioned, scaled commons, there's chainmail hooligans.
What?
I turned it off. I disliked it.
Hooligan?
Yeah, it's not a chainmailed hooligan. It's a common carp. It has never been anything else. I just disliked the video, turned it off, and started watching something about volcanoes again.
I think we should out him just so we can get trolled. Yeah.
He's probably a nice guy, just doing what he does, but
Yeah, one in the cell. There's a room 101 for me. I've got one in the cell, and then just the picture of the shot with the retainer sling. I mean, I don't like seeing retainer slings at all. I use them. They are necessary at certain times, but when you show me a picture at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning of one in the cells, I just think you probably call that 9 o'clock at night and it's been in there 12 hours. I mean, even if it hasn't, you don't want to be advertising the fact that you're retaining fish. We all have to do it at certain times, but do not show the world you're retaining fish. Like, even if it's allowed, I just don't like to see it. We all know we do it, you know, but it's, I don't know, it ain't right. And again, glorifying it is not what I want to see. So there's another room 101. These are all impromptu. We sat there before, Mark, thinking about some 101s we can do, and we're just coming up with them naturally.
Just making them up as we go along.
Yeah, I mean,
we could go on forever.
Yeah, conspiracies, they can go in the old 101 book. I'm not saying
they should
about that. They can get in the cell along with
They should have a 101 island where they can just all go talk bollocks to each other and disappear with their own collective rectums.
He's always been on the island.
Oh, put anti-vaxxers with them and all. Just let natural selection take its course.
Stop. I can read the YouTube comments already.
Oh, I hope
Mostly
so.
involving calling us sheep. Sheep, wake up. You don't know what's going on. It'll come true. No,
do you know what? I was
follow Q, you're a terrorist. That's the end of it.
Yeah. Do you know I was a sheep earlier this year, apparently? Because my work patterns, I get Monday, Tuesday off. Yeah. I arrive at the lake on a Sunday night, usually when all the weekenders have been done the thing and gone.
Yeah.
And if I had the absolute audacity to jump in a swim that had done fish at the weekend, I would have been slagged off as a sheep. I was sheeping people up.
I mean,
that's the only way I can catch now, apparently.
I remember saying this in an article or something like 20 odd years ago. The best bit of watercraft you can ever do is know where the last fish got caught from. You can spend your whole life, as long as you can actually get in the swims, you can spend your whole life not worrying about watercraft except for which swim did the most fish prior to me arriving at the lake.
What am I supposed to do? Get down the lake, think, the car park's done a few swims, the fish, the wood's done a swim, the cut-through's done fish. I know, I'll go fish the bypass. That's done nothing. I'll be all right. I am there.
Yeah, but if you weren't a sheep, you'd have been in the bypass.
I'm a wolf, not a sheep. I eat fucking sheep.
Did you catch?
I caught a lot more than I put on Facebook, put it that way.
Oh, right, okay. What, bream?
Oh, yeah, that as well.
Carp are not bream. We need to have go on.
You know what? I had run a bream to start with, and as soon as I started catching carp, the bream stopped. But I found
that happens a lot.
Yeah, well, it's a lake. The sailing club puts all the blue dye in, put the weed back, but weed does still come through on some of the shallower areas, and I know where they are. And in 3 different swims, I was kind of like alternating between the 3. I was fishing right into this, that eel grass. It's just, you're just bringing lumps of it in. It just smelt of fish where they've been swimming through it and scraping bits of slime off. And, the bream don't like the weed and the carp love it. So As soon as that comes up, it's game on.
Do you think Martin still listens to Carp Cast?
Martin?
From your lake?
I have no idea, possibly.
Yeah, Martin, I'd like a ticket, please. I know there's a bit of a list these days. But, please, can I have a ticket? Because I might be stuck in England. Yeah. God knows how long, but yeah, I won't mind a ticket. But anyway. Yeah.
I can take guests on. We'll have a guestie down there.
Yeah, I'll definitely.
When we're allowed to go out and play again.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who does listen to the Carp Cast.
Go on.
I got a message from Ian McMillan the other day asking what we were playing at and why we weren't doing anything, so...
Yeah,
we
Tom,
know. Here it is.
He was always a Carp Cast fan, Ian. Yeah, I'm sure he used to touch his private parts to the sound of our voices once or twice. I'm pretty sure he's joked about that before.
He also says he likes to... I mentioned him in text that you'd recorded with Roger, and good news. He loves hearing Roger, so...
Ah, good. A shout out to Ian. I think when we do like the group Zoom Carp Cast, maybe the end of the month ones, remind me. Ting Tong's definitely one of the people I'd like to see on it with us. I mean, he's done a few interviews on his own as the Carp Cast, but I think it'd be good to get a few of us on, maybe with Frank and Julian especially. Although I do want to do an individual one with Julian again because. It's in my worth a look actually because Julian has. Have you seen the in-depth pieces that he's doing at the minute on his Julian Cundiff Carp Angler page? If you're not following that, then you must do because I've already pulled him on it. He's giving too much good information away. It's like all the secrets us geeks have been into for a long time. So the amount of detail he went into, like spot fishing, looking for the spots. I know we mentioned spots before when you were swimming. But one of my biggest advantages, or one of the reasons why I was so successful years ago when I was younger, is people used to call me fly fisherman on the lake. I would cast 100 times to feel the area, and even if I found a really good spot, I'd be like, well, there might be a better one nearer, and I'd keep casting until I 100% knew that I was on the best, donk or whatever in that area. And it's caught me so many fish. I mean, I had this conversation with Daryl, like, whenever I've met Daryl 15, 16 years ago. We around that time we fished a few lakes together. Daryl Peck I'm talking about for those that don't know. And we had this conversation. Whenever you catch a big one or the biggest fish in the lake or one of the special ones, literally every single conversation with every angler I've ever spoke to who actually understands this stuff, they're like, but the bump, it was the one. I had 50 casts, but this one was just the one. I was like, I'm not reeling it in again till I go home. Lo and behold, you've had a bite off it and it's a big one. Or the big one, and that story is so common with big fish captures. It's like, why would you ever not keep casting until you've got that bump?
Do you know what it is? It is the donk of destiny. That's what it is.
When
you get that donk of destiny, you just should leave it. I mean, as I mentioned, those spots.
You big carpy. We're coming up with catchphrases, jingles all day, jingles for days.
Yeah, t-shirts maybe. Oh, no, should we go down that route again?
Well, I'm still $3,000 out of pocket from the first lot.
Hey, you've still got some behind you.
I've got one on. Carbon. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mine don't fit me anymore.
Yeah, let's look at the back. I've got the front of my one on. So we'll look at the back of that one. The Carp Cast. Ironically, I feel like I lost $3,000 and we still haven't got any. I think there's a box somewhere in the Northern Angling Show stuff. Northern Angling Show, now there's a blast from the past. Will we ever have another fishing show?
We've got to hope. We've got to see. I think with these shows nowadays, working in a tackle shop as I do, I just could not care less about the tackle. It's just the people I got to see now. And without the shows, it's Facebook's all right and texting and chatting, but just catching up with people for a good face-to-face chat. We need the show. As soon as this pandemic's over, I'm holding you personally responsible to get it going again.
Definitely, and we've been having a look at doing some outdoor shows this summer, which maybe may happen, may not. I've been looking at a few venues and making some plans and stuff. Whether people will be interested, I don't know. If it's something you would attend in July or August, pop us a message and let us know if there's any interest for an outdoor show. Place to, like you said, meet people, Mark, buy some cheaper stuff, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Anyway, back to the spot fishing. The detail Julian went into about, feeling for the drop, knowing what kind of substrate you're landing on, finding spots within spots. I mean, it was real advanced stuff he's been posting. He's gone into detail of every subject super extensively. As I said, to the point of I'm starting to think, wow, making it too easy. All these little edges that have helped me outfish, people on lakes that I've been fishing or catch the fish that I want quickly. It's not competition unless it is competition, but I don't fish those. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, too much information.
Yeah, can you have too much? Because, it's all right. Joe Blows can come along, take up carp fishing, buy a load of gear. He reads Jules' articles, are definitely going to help, but they've still got to go out and do it. They've still got to feel and interpret it to what it is.
The secrets to carp fishing, we've just given them all away, right? So we started off with a spinner rig, right? That's going to catch you every fish in the lake, right? We've talked about watercraft.
The spinner rig,
right?
Yeah, it's been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah, we've talked about watercraft, just getting the swim that's done the last fish, right? And then we've talked about just keep casting till you get the donk of destiny, sorry.
Yeah.
That's it. Do that on every lake you fish and you'll catch them all.
Have you not got to spod the granny out of it as well?
We might as well stop the podcast now. Fishing, we've done it. Completed it, mate.
I've completed pike fishing.
Have you?
Yeah, I had a 29-pounder in summer. That's me done with pike fishing.
Did you?
I got it on a white pop-up.
No way. From your regular lake, the big one?
Yeah, regular lake, big pit.
No way. Is that pike fished a lot in the winter?
There's one or two people pike fish. I'm not sure. I've not been down there at all much for the past couple of winters, but I did photograph, which may or may not have been the same fish at 32-pound a couple of years back.
All right.
But the story with this is, I guess it's a breamy sort of take. Just like beat, beat, beat. Something or whatever. I'm not in a rush to get to the rods. I'm slipping my wellies on. 1 foot in, 2nd foot in, and then it tightens up, pulls out the clip, and then it shot off at a rate of knots. So I'm thinking, oh, it's not a bream, here we go. And it's a weird sort of... Well, at this point, I don't know. I'm playing this for... In it is a weird sort of fight. It's something different from the off, where you're bringing in, it's kind of a weight, but it's coming easier than where it should be. Then it pulls back, but it just like shoots off at an absolute rate of knots. It is fast and powerful. And whoa, here we go. And then it's coming back in quite easily. So I'm thinking, what have I got here? Is it one of these bionic 19-pound X-Trent Commons, from years back? I don't know. The question was answered when about 20 yards out, nearly 30-pound of pike tailwalked and cleared the water right in front of me.
Well, it's must be impressive sight. I've never seen a pike that big up close, but
it's it's an absolute. It's a lucky capture. It's a fluke.
Yeah.
But just the importance of that fish and just the stature of it is certainly not lost on me. That's a fish of a lifetime for many people. And I only did a couple of quick self takes because it was August. Pike are not as hardy as carp. I just wanted to document it for myself, quick weigh in, couple of pigs, and get it straight back. And it swam off nice and healthy. But just the size of its head and its mouth, you could chuck so many bream down there, never to be seen again. Bigger the better.
That's
like a bucket full of razor blades.
Yeah, that's a real specimen. I don't remember you telling me about that.
Yeah. I did put the pictures up on my Facebook. They're not the best pictures because, like I say, they were self takes, and I wasn't. I'm not used to handling big pike. I'll be honest. I've seen that thing where they slip the hand underneath the gills and get it round, but I like my fingers too much.
No chance. I'd be looking for gloves. I'd be going back. I'd be finding tea towels and all sorts. Yeah, I'm not a pike fisherman. I could get down with the lures, but that's about it. It's all a bit messy and bitey for me. Just trebles. I just don't really like trebles. I just get stuck in things and get in the way. I don't know.
Do you know what? I pike fished a bit as a kid, but aside from lure fishing, you go dead baiting. You're going on your stinker fish whether you've caught anything or not.
Exactly. The only time I like trebles are on me Ronnies.
Yeah, but which way do you curve it?
Well, you can have 3 up baits on. What can we call it? The tripler. I don't know. By the way, that's a joke, kids. Do not be putting trebles on your Ronnies.
No, definitely not.
They are too good. Double hooking is definitely a thing. Tiny bit more housekeeping. We've had a couple of people contact us. The next time you listen to this podcast, there'll be some advertisers. If you would like to advertise on the Carp Cast, it doesn't necessarily have to be fishing. One of the advertisers that's contacted it, he is a fisherman, but he runs like not 100% sure actually. He's drafting the advert for me to read, but I think it's either an advertising agency or marketing or something. I'm not actually quite sure. Sorry, Ben, but you will know next time because I'll be reading the script. But yeah, 60-second advert, £60 if you would like to advertise, 4-show minimum, and if it's one minute longer than 60 seconds, it's £1 a minute basically. So 90-second advert, £90. Minimum of 4. Headline sponsor. I don't know if we're going to go for a headline sponsor now. There's some news on the VIP Carp Holidays, which is my company, or was my company. Received the contract tonight. There's a chap I know, Matthew, along with another chap called James. They've offered to buy a percentage of my company. They still want Gasper and I to be heavily involved in it, doing all the Balkan trips, the Slovenia and Croatia. And they're going to grow much bigger. They've already done a lot of trips out in Spain, Oriana, that Extremadura region, number of areas, and they're looking to expand. They're starting a company called Carp Circle, and one of the key people involved in the filming and editing and everything is a chap called Jamie Bellhouse, who you will probably know from Brother Carp and from Nash. He's one of the big sort of Nash guys. So I'm pleased to say we've got Jamie here.
I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad at all. So I know you from, your name's been associated with Nash for quite a while now. I've been following you on Instagram, seen your Brother Carp page, some cracking photography and filming from some amazing looking destinations. What's kind of the whole ethos or plan behind what I've been seeing?
Well, the plan. There's never really been a plan, I suppose, behind Brother Carp as such. It was just started off like everyone does, really, just going out having fish and having a good time. And when I came on with Nash, that sort of progressed, and I started to travel further and further afield. And I now find myself pretty much out in Europe every chance I get, filming and fishing and doing as much as I can, really. So,
excellent. What's the best places you've been recently?
Where do we start? I suppose 2020 is a bit of a difficult one for most people because a lot of their stuff was cancelled. But for me, I mean, I travelled pretty much every chance I got throughout the year. So, I mean, we went out to Slovenia, did the French Alps. I did quite a lot of mainland France. But definitely, I think the highlight for me was definitely Bled.
Yeah, it is for most people. I mean, you can see the pictures. You can hear about it, read about it, see how people fish it. You know, you get people that don't fancy not fishing the nights and all everything that's entailed with it. But when you experience it, it's like nothing else, isn't it?
It is. I said it to a few people. When you go there, it is literally like the Disneyland of carp fishing. It's something magical about that place. As soon as you step foot there, it just feels special. And it doesn't matter about the nights. It's just a totally different. It's a different atmosphere to anywhere else I've fished, and you can't appreciate it until you actually go there and experience it for yourself.
Yeah, I never forget. I was fishing up at Church Lake at Nash's, and Churchill Cop's one of them, and Alan and Ollie had literally just got back to the office from their first trip there, which is now the legendary Eurobanks, the Bled edition. And they were like, Jay, you've got to see this. And they brought the cameras down and showed me the footage off the back of the camera. And I'd literally just bought a camper van like that year. I had a T5, I think it was, VW, and looking for somewhere to go for the summer. And that was it. Like literally for 3-4 weeks later, we were on our way to Bled. And the same thing when you get there, that's a good way of describing it, Disneyland of carp fishing.
Yeah.
And I remember, I was messaging all my pals back at home that I go fishing with. My mate Dave, who's a familiar guy that's never been on the podcast, gets mentioned a lot. I was like, I'd come here if there was no carp in the lake. It's just, the place is incredible. It's not just about the carp. And then when you look at the carp, they're just big old scaly dark ones, some historic fish in there that are seem like centuries old. They're big, 50% of the stock of the lake's £40 plus. It's like wow, it's like a mecca, isn't it?
It's an incredible place. And like you say, the fish in there are just, they've got a certain character about them. I mean, there's a lot of diversity in different strains, I would say, from the fish that I've seen. But the big fat-bellied, like dark, beautiful old mirrors, it's just incredible. Like, it was such a magic place.
Yeah, it's very special. That second I got there, upon their recommendation, I was like, right, I need to start a company here, bringing people, which was, I was introduced to Gashper, who you now know over there, who is Mr. Bled, absolute top human being. He's one of my favourite human beings on the planet. And was like, can we do a company together doing it? That led to me living there for a couple of years. And I know while you were there, you were with Matt Crawford, is it?
That's it, yeah.
And it turns out he had the same kind of ideas I had, as probably most people do. When you get to Bled, it's like, okay, 1, how can I live here? 2, how can I make money?
How can I stay here for as long as possible?
yeah, definitely. And Matt, I know he did some filming with yourself. You visited some of the other lakes, namely Bear Lake and Hocher, that we do trips to. And Matt's made me an offer for part of the company, such as his love and shared by you, I guess. So Carp Circle, I know you're involved with them as well, doing a lot of the media production and general advice for them. Just give us a brief overview what that's all about.
Yeah, I spoke to the guy. The Carp Circle sort of come on board with me. Well, I sort of came on board with Carp Circle a little over a year ago now. And I had a few conversations with Matt about sort of what they were planning and, in the very early stages. And his sort of concepts behind the whole idea of Carp Circle was to be a complete non-conflict company that encompasses everything to do with carp fishing. So whether that's trips, gear, videos, media, everything. He wanted to bring it all into one place and sort of create a mecca or a hub for people to come to that could share and sort of experience and grow sort of the wider part of carp angling across Europe, which is obviously a lot of the public waters, a lot of the waters, the lesser known waters that people don't necessarily know about that want to go and visit. And he sort of sold this to me, asked me if I was interested in coming on board, working with those guys to sort of create the media behind it all. And that's where it sort of went from there. And I sort of came on board. We've been out for a few trips doing, covering a few of the lakes that you've just said, out in Slovenia, some of the lakes in France, with the hope of sort of creating a hub for people to not only come and learn and grow from, but also experience themselves if they want to later down the line.
So it's the way I've spoke with Matt about it. He seems to be concentrating on a lot of public lakes, so lakes that are accessible to everybody. So if you decide you want to go and fish the public lakes in whatever country, Slovenia, Croatia, France, many other places. I know he's connected with Spain quite heavily as well, Oriana and the Extremadura region. It seems to me like he's trying to make a database of public lakes with all the info you would ever need to go on like a road trip. Is that kind of
exactly that? And it's sort of making it easy for people to be able to do those trips without putting as much effort as for the general, like for me and you, obviously past experience, the amount of effort and research it takes to be able to go to these places. There's not a great deal of, I would say not a great deal of information, but not a great deal of easily accessible information. And to that, I mean, there's a lot of, all the information is out there, but you have to search through lots of different Google pages and translate lots of different, languages, depending on what country you're going to. So it's sort of bringing all that information into one place that's easily understandable and that facilitates people being able to get out and actually go and visit these places and fishing.
And it seems to me like the business model that he's doing, like that's a hell of a lot of work, time. I know how much it costs to take a film crew somewhere and to create this content, create this media, do all the things you've just said, translate the pages, gather the information from the local guys, from the local people. And it's like he's going to give all this information away for a couple of quid a month or something as a subscription. It seems insanely beneficial to the consumer for me.
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, the amount of effort that it takes to get access to this information, I mean, hours and hours spent searching certain, like looking on Google Maps, searching certain areas, localities, to have all that information in one place, like you say, it's completely invaluable to people. And if it makes it easier and sort of opens it up for people that are thinking about doing it, that wouldn't necessarily take that step, it's a win for everyone.
Yeah, fantastic. And obviously he's going to be doing like the guided trips as well. We've got a lot of things. We're not going to do a full kind of relaunch of the VIP Carp holidays right now, but we're going to be doing over the next couple of weeks. But got some fantastic ideas between us. I'm still going to be involved in the company. Gashper, who's obviously the key to Slovenia, is going to be involved. And just some of the deals that he's negotiating with people abroad. Like, we're obviously going to be selling packages as well as giving the information away to do it yourself. So it seems fantastic. I'm really glad I've come across him, Matt, and in turn yourself. Obviously, I knew who you were from Nash. But what's coming up this next year then? Assuming Boris lets us out.
I think the first plan for us is obviously to get back to Bled. We've got some unfinished business there. There's quite a bit of filming that we need to do. Obviously, setting up stuff with you. We've got apartment and stuff set up out there that we need to go and cover, and really get that out there so that we can sort of advertise those trips to Bled, and especially in Slovenia. I know you spoke with Matt about expanding out, going to see some other lakes. So I think there's some scope there to actually go and visit some other places that we've not necessarily been to. And at some point this year, if we can, obviously, I'd love to get back out to the Alps. I went in the summer last year, and we had a really good time, but we didn't really get into any of the bigger fish that I was promised, if you like, from a lot of the anglers that I spoke to. Don't get me wrong, we caught some lovely fish, lots of them, but the bigger fish didn't make an appearance. So definitely something that I want to go back to and have another crack at.
I think I'll be following you, getting the number plate of the van and right behind you, because literally I'm pretty much free this year. I'm hoping the festivals happen in Croatia during July and August, which is my kind of bread and butter. So I need to be there July and August. But the second we can leave this country in my camper, I'm gone. Spain, the Alps, Slovenia, Croatia, wherever. So yeah, it's I'm sure we're going to cross paths a lot during the course of the year.
Yeah, I know we spoke about going out and actually doing some filming together, and actually doing some stuff with you on some of the public lakes as well, which would be quite good.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Fishing's, I've sort of been involved in music and events and stuff quite heavily the last few years, and fished in between, but fishing's like the main focus at the minute. I'm loving it. I'm itching to get out, even over winter when it's awful at the minute. I've been up to Farlows and a few of the southern lakes, even Brasenose, places like that. It's just like, I've got the bug, really bad. It comes and goes during your life, doesn't it? It never completely goes. When it comes back with a bang, and it's just frustrating being locked down at the minute. And obviously the weather's awful as well, and it's snowing here in Blackpool today. I don't know what it's like near you.
Yeah, I hate this time of year. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the cold. I mean, for me, I know summer's not the best time of year for fishing, but sitting in my shorts and flip-flops, beer in hand with the sun shining, that is life for me.
Yeah, and it's only not great for fishing in the UK, like Europe. They get those temperatures all the time. Croatia, Slovenia, the lakes don't fish worse in July and August. Not at all, really. And our weights fluctuate so much, like because the fish are smaller in England, like spawning, just nobody really talks about it over there because the amount of big fish that they've got and all different year groups, so there's always, you can be on the group of the 60s, you can be on the 40s, you can be on the 20s. They seem to move around in year groups because of the way they stock the lakes over there. But the spawning thing's not a big deal, so people don't mind fishing right through the summer because it's not about catching the fish at the biggest weights, because there's lots of them at all weights.
Well, I think as well in Europe, obviously you've got the waters are a lot bigger out there. So I mean, especially in England, you've got smaller waters, and when the lake tends to spawn, all the fish tend to go together. Whereas on the big reservoirs, especially, you'll have groups of fish that go to spawn and groups of fish that don't, and they do it at different times. And it's something I don't think we appreciate as much being in England, because, as I say, we fish a lot smaller waters, and those types of venues tend to all go at the same time.
Yeah, and again, I mean, it's changing in England now. We've got kind of super waters, haven't we, now, where there's more stocking programs. You look at the likes of what's happened at Raysbury, even the Brasenose Lakes at Oxford. You look how many fish are in places like Farlow, Stony Weir, Sandhurst now. I'm starting to call these super waters now. Lakes that have got a dozen 40s in sometimes, maybe more, and a few hundred 30s. They're stocking, I know in Europe, Croatia, Slovenia, they tend to stock about a ton of fish in each lake every year, but they're stocking them bigger because they're cheaper over there. So they're stocking them at like 18 to 22 pound, and they're 40s within 2 years. So and what I find is they spawn in those groups. So the fish that were stocked in 1999, them fish tend to stay together, so they might be the bigger ones now, and one day during your week you're hoping that you get the group of big ones on you. And I've had it where I've caught, I'm thinking about Zayaki now in Croatia, probably the best big fish lake in the world, apart from Euroacra, which is a little bit artificial the way it's sort of fed and bred and stuff. But if you take that one out of the equation, Zayaki, sort of natural, not fed at all lake to kind of do its own thing, it's like 10 90 pounders in there, and probably 50 fish over 70. It's incredible. But I'll catch like 3 or 4 days you'll be catching sort of 30s to low 40s. I'd one day where I'd had 15 or 17 fish, and I hadn't deemed any of them, like get it out of the water, weigh it and photograph it. Anyway, I weighed one of the middle ones just to get an average sort of guess on what they all were. It was £41. I'd put 15 or 16 of them back like in a day without getting a single one out of the water. So they were all between 37 and 45, I would have thought.
How quickly you get used to those size of fish, and they start to become sort of almost nuisance fish, if you like. When you're catching low 40s all day long, it's like, okay, well, now I'm looking for the sort of 50s, high 50s, 60s, like you say, like those big fish.
Exactly. It's happened to me 3 times on Zayaki. So I've had a couple of days like that where you're catching a lot, anything from 5 to 15 fish a day, up to maybe mid-upper 40, and then you get 5 60s in a row. The next 5 bites are all 60s, and that's happened 3 times now over there, and it's incredible. But you just know that the big uns have come across you, that group, which was probably one of the earlier year groups, and then they're gone. That you never get them for more than a day when you get the big uns, and then hopefully the end of the week or a bit towards the session it happens again, and that seems to be what you're hoping for over there, and then you're just chalking the numbers up in between. Some cracking fish, but it's but yeah, back to the point, the spawning thing, it's just not really an issue. They fish great right through the summer. The most common question I get asked when people try and book holidays, what's the best time to go? And it's like, to really knowing what English people want to hear, it's a really hard question to answer, because May's probably the worst month, which is the month everybody wants to go, because they're just getting going the waters over there sort of in May. They have cold winters.
Yeah.
And it's the back end is obviously insane, as you know. September, October, November, and Bled, November. You ask Ashburn, is the best month's November. It's uncomfortable. It can be -10 outside, but the water's still warm because they're deep. They've had 30 degrees on them all summer. You see people, there can be snow around Bled and all on the mountains, and people can swim in the lake. Like, it's incredible. It's just,
you see how many pitches of big fish that Casper's had in the snow. It's just standing there 60s, it's not like snow-capped mountains in the background. It's incredible.
It must be a dream for the guys that are good with the photography and the video, the filmography, like yourself. Obviously the fishing's amazing, the country's amazing, it's clean, it's beautiful, but wow, it must be paradise for you visually.
Oh, it is, yeah, incredible. Especially the aerial shots, because it's not something that we're really used to, especially in England. Obviously, we get snow maybe once or twice, especially in the south, maybe once or twice a year for maybe 24 hours if you're lucky. So to go out there and just have mountains of just complete snow, it's I mean, everyone wants that snow picture, that snow carp picture. And it's so finesse. Like, you've got to time it perfectly right, be able to go, especially in England. So when you're going out there and you've got it for months at a time, and you've got waters that are easily fishable, and the fish are still happy to feed, it's perfect.
I had an idea from as soon as I kind of learned all this about Slovenia, that first and second trip that I went over there. I was like, snow carp holidays, it's got to be a thing, because that is a place you can do it.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, if you don't mind braving the cold and sitting out with some gloves on under a brolly, then yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, not just bled. Bear Lake's good for it, although Bear Lake doesn't fish that great right through the winter, apparently. Especially not the bigger fish. You can quite often get the newer fish that have been stocked in the past couple of years, but there's definitely scope for it over there. But I think they've had a lot of snow before Christmas. They had a proper white Christmas this year. But I've spoke at length with the guys over there, and they don't. It's maybe 1 in 5 to 7 years that they actually get the snow before Christmas. It's normally afterwards, January, when it's actually really cold, -20s. So quite often the lakes are froze. I mean, Bled doesn't freeze very often, but that closes on December 31st anyway. So generally, it's quite hard to get a snow carp out of Bled. It's even for Gashborough, it's rare because they only get the snow before it closes. Every sort of 7 years. Yeah, yeah, they've had a ton of it this year, and he's had some absolute chunks, hasn't he? But
really, he's been the face of social media lately for me. Every time I go onto Instagram, his face there with another massive carp from Bled. It's just incredible.
Yeah, and he's very good at working it as well. He knows what people want to see, and he delivers the goods every single time. But yeah, I'm looking forward to working with you during this coming year. We'll be doing a lot more Carp Cast and media type broadcasts to go deeper on some stuff. But for now, thanks for your time, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie. Look forward to seeing you soon. Goodbye.
So, yeah, thank you to Jamie, Brother Carp. If you do have any existing bookings with us, nothing changes as far as you're concerned, except everything's going to be a bit better because they're investing a decent chunk of money into the company and just looking to grow. And I really like what they're doing with Carp Circle, the kind of one-stop hub of public fishing in and around Europe, amongst many other stuff. So their content is superb. I've seen some of it already, and it looks excellent. So yeah, vipcarpholidays.co.uk for booking Balkan trips with us. And as we know, the fishing out there into Balkans is fantastic, and I'm hoping from spring everything will be back to normal again. So yeah. Housekeeping wise, I can't think of anything else. I've still not set the Patreon up so people can kind of contribute, but I will do at some point. We will be giving free draws for holidays on the Patreon. If you become a member of various tiers, we'll give you various different benefits. Talking of Tom, let's get him on right now for some on the netty type news stuff.
It's on the net.
But yes, while we're chatting at a tangent, while we're waiting for you to jump on, Mark, I'd like to say welcome to Thom Ayres, formerly of Carp Feed, probably still a bit Carp Feed, but you're back working for Angling Times now, I believe.
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's good to see both of you back, and it's good to know that the Carp Cast is back in our ears and on our screens as well, which is good. So yeah, it's been, lockdowns affected everyone differently, and yeah, I'm still doing Carp Feed, but also a bit of pooling of resources on Angling Times. Carp Feed is an Angling Times brand, and yes, I've been doing lots of stuff on Angling Times. We've all been sort of chipping in as a bit of a hub with our other mags, like Improve Your Course Fishing as well. So we've all hands on deck, but the news has kept rolling in. So it's been, luckily we've still been allowed to fish, generally speaking, in the last sort of 10 months or so. And so, yeah, it's been good.
What's the general view at Bauer at the minute with the current state of magazines? I mean, there aren't many surviving ones anymore. We were chatting about this earlier, Mark, weren't we? The Carp World has sadly gone, which was kind of the stalwart of carp fishing magazines. We're literally left with Carpology, the DHP one, Crafty Carper, is it?
Total.
Improve or Total.
Carp.
Yeah, and is Carp Feed still a magazine within Angling Times?
Yeah, so Carp Feed was a standalone magazine, free every month. We've now we've put it inside the mag as a sort of pull out, as a sort of supplement at the moment. And I suppose the plan is for it to return as a standalone mag. But yeah, things are a bit tricky for printed media, as you've said. We've lost Anglers Mail as well. Which is our rival as Angling Times. It's our rival weekly. But I have no gratification in seeing it go, because the angling world's poorer for it. Same with Carp Talk a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
We've lost things like Crafty, Carp World, stuff like that. So it is, as you say, it's Carpology, it's Total, and there's still Big Carp, I think, and there's still things. There's online publications as well. But Carp Feed's still going strong. Bauer, we're lucky. Bauer is a multinational company with all the benefits and all the disadvantages that brings. But they still support fishing. And to be honest, Angling Times, during angling as a whole, has been one of the winners of COVID. Of all the sort of bizarre consequences of COVID, angling's popularity has surged, and so has our sales. So there's still, we're still getting well over 20,000 people buying Angling Times every week, which is not too shabby, in this day and age where there's information everywhere. So it's good actually. We're still there. We might be one of a smaller bands sort of serving people's angling news, but we're still dedicated to it.
Excellent, good to hear, and hopefully it doesn't fall by the wayside as some seem to be at the minute. It must help you with Anglers Mail going, to be honest, as the only other sort of course mixed species weekly. That's got to give you a few more years, I would have thought.
Yeah, I think so. And I was just talking just before I came to talk to you. I was doing a story generally about the Environment Agency and some pretty heavy criticism levelled at the Environment Agency. I can't say too much at the moment, but it will be in print very soon. And I was talking to the people who are raising these concerns about the Environment Agency, and we both agreed, we're the only outlet left. We're trained journalists. I come from a newspaper background, and we're the ones that can still hold these powerful bodies to account. So it's important, that for all the Facebook sort of catch reports and rumors and stuff that are absolutely great, and you can get all your how-tos on YouTube and things like that, there's still a place for proper journalism that's sort of holding powerful bodies to account and holding where our rod license money goes. So there's still a role for us, definitely.
And I've certainly noticed, I mean, there's never really been a popular body representing angling, but I tell you what, this COVID kind of situation, the Angling Trust has come into its own, really. I'm seeing people joining now that would have never considered joining a body like that. I've even considered it myself. It's like, wow, I can see what they're doing for us. This is good. And that's the first time in 40 years of fishing nearly for me that I've ever seen that, I think.
I mean, just before I came on to you, we had a press release through from the Angling Trust saying 2,000 people had joined this week. Which is phenomenal. I mean, they had huge surge in membership during the initial lockdown or just after, when fishing was allowed to come back. But 2,000 in a week is a huge number to join the Angling Trust. And I think, I mean, again, the Angling Trust aren't beyond reproach. There are things that we can still want to improve with our governing body, as any sport can. But I've spoken to Jamie Kirk and to Martin Salter over the last sort of 10 months or so, and you can't deny the effort they've put in to get angling back. And I think it's easy for some people to think that fishing would have come back automatically. And I think some sports like golf probably were guilty of thinking the same, of that complacency. And I think the Trust have shown that you have to be proactive. And with Martin Salter, a former MP, they've got access to those sort of corridors of power. And they've shown that, getting on the front foot, getting stuff in front of ministers, the people who make the decisions, gives you a real advantage. Otherwise, you'll be sort of left stranded. And when people are making these fast-moving policy decisions, they'll forget about you. Like golf is currently banned, but angling's allowed. And I think you've got to say that that's because angling has quite a proactive governing body at the moment.
So it's almost certainly down to Jamie, who's taken over. So how long's he been in the role at Angling Trust now?
Not long, I think. He did say to me that he wasn't even in the role, like a year ago or when things sort of kicked off. So I think one of his first tasks has been, here you go, here's a pandemic on your plate. What are you going to do about it? And you can't argue with what they've done to get angling a prominent. They've got the ear of government. They know how to do it. They know the routes to do it. They know which ministers to approach. And it's one of those very British ancient things, isn't it? How you affect change and things like that. There's certain ways of doing it, certain ways of not doing it, and the trusts clearly have a good formula for getting their voice heard. In the number of people who are joining the trust, which I think that can only help as a snowball effect. The more people that join the trust, whether they're devout believers in what the trust stand for, the more voices there, the more the grassroots can change what the trust is all about. So I think that's a plus as well, because then if there's a huge swell of sort of people joining up, then those people can affect change and direct the trust in its future sort of operations.
2,000 people in a week is incredible, and like you said, it's a government body, isn't it? We've had Rob Hughes on in the past explaining exactly how it works, and I'll mess it up off the top of my head, but it's basically that there's as I remember it, and you might know this better than me, but so you have the government have departments, agriculture and the EA, the waterways, and then they have people kind of below them that then feed. There's different layers, isn't there, between the government and us, the end consumer paying a rod licence. So I'm guessing they are funded mainly by the government, the wages, but then when we pay to join the Angling Trust, that kind of goes to the government, I guess, that money, I would have thought.
With regard to the funding model, certainly a lot of it comes from almost indirectly from rod license sales. So the Environment Agency collects the rod license money, and then they tender for contracts, which the Angling Trust have won. They've got one, I know of at least one big contract that the Angling Trust run, which is to do with like volunteer bailiffs and things like that, and fishery and enforcement, which brings in money from the Environment Agency. I don't know, I'm not going to pretend to know exactly how it's all funded, but obviously there is the membership to join the Angling Trust. And in terms of the sort of governance of it all, there's Sport England as the sort of overarching body, and then whether, and again, I don't want to put wrong information out there, but whether it's angling's official governing body or whether it's just the de facto governing body, because there is no other governing body of angling, but in all effect, it is our governing body of the sport. I know that Jamie is in a sort of forum of chief executives of other sports governing bodies, so they all liaise. So I know that when the first lockdown hit, there was basketball, golf, angling, all talking to one another, the CEOs of those governing bodies, all sharing expertise and things like that. And I think angling has been held up as a model of what other sports can do, and how to get on that front foot, and knock on the doors in the corridors of power and say, look, this is our sport, this is why it's safe. Let us continue doing it, and that they've done it really successfully.
Yeah, it's all credit to them. As I said, I don't really know if they set themselves up as a body and then applied to the government with the voice of the anglers, or if it was the other way around. I do remember Rob now mentioning Sport England and then the subsidiaries underneath that spin off. But either way, they've proven their value, I think, and I would be happy endorsing and paying the money. I know they have trade memberships and stuff as well, don't they? For various things, and again, I think now people know they do have a voice within government, and that the relevant ministers listen. I can't see anybody having a problem with supporting them anymore, and we've never signed up on the trade thing through our Northern Angling Show and the businesses. We've never done that in the past, but I really see the benefit now, and it's something I'm going to be addressing For sure. So how do you understand these local fishing days only type rules?
Well, it depends when this podcast gets released, doesn't it? Because it does change. Our print deadline fell foul of it, sadly, with Angling Times. You know, we went to print just on the cusp of when it was still banned last week, which seems, you know, an eternity ago in angling. And, you know, so things could change. And I do get that impression at the time of recording that angling isn't guaranteed for weeks and months ahead. We're in a perilous position. I think in the press release that came out just before recording this, that trumpeted that there are 2,000 new members. Jamie Cook's quote that accompanied it was very keen to point out that the focus is on angling like never before, and so a bit of a sort of let's behave, let's keep our house in order, and let's not jeopardise it for future. For the future. In terms of that, you know, everyone's asking that same question. Any live stream you go on, any forum online, what does local mean? And I think the trust would probably say it's probably best not to define it in some ways, if that's not counterintuitive, is that it's sometimes discretion is best in those situations. Don't ask for a definition, because you might be disappointed with what the answer is. So there has been talk. A colleague of mine spoke to Jamie this week, and I think the thing that came back, and it has been said elsewhere online, is it should be your village, your town, or your area of the city. That's where you can go fishing in. But having said that, I think the FAQs on the Trust website at the moment don't quite say that. They're not quite as specific as that. And I think what's generally said is, you know, go to your nearest fishing location. You know, it might be across a postcode boundary, but it might be nearer than somewhere else, or it might be easier to get to. And I think, you know, it's a cop-out, and I know people want to know what does local mean, but I think it's just that common sense thing. And don't cause a scene. You know, go to those venues where you're not going to be doing any harm and you're not going to be adding to any problems. I think one key quote that Martin Salter keeps saying is angling has to be seen as part of the solution and not part of the problem. And I think that's probably sound advice. So, that's a long-winded way of saying there is no definition, but, you know, be sensible.
And don't go virtue signalling others, because we don't want to be drawing attention to it. If you know somebody that's travelling a bit further, then don't be calling him out on Facebook, because we don't want people seeing this. I mean, Boris got in trouble last week for cycling 7 miles from his house. Now, you're very lucky if you've got lakes within 7 miles of your house. He's also come back and said, I don't really see what the problem is, which again, I'm not a Boris supporter, but I don't see what the problem is in that. He's on a bike. He's not causing any trouble. You know, if he goes 10 miles, who cares? You know, he's doing his exercise. I'm in a situation next week where I have to go to London for work. I've got meetings on Monday and Friday, so I don't want to drive home after the meeting Monday to drive back down there Friday. So I'm thinking of fishing somewhere in the area. I have a camper van. I can sleep. Surely that's better than driving, 6 hours each way, twice in a week. It's got to be better. It's better on the environment. It's better on, fuel stations, petrol stations. But I can't show a postcode to show that I live within, if I find a lake within the London area to fish the days only, and even if I check into a hotel at night or sleep in the camper van, it doesn't really matter. I'm technically away from home, which you're not allowed to stay away from home, but it is work. So, it's a bit of a catch-22. Like, what do I do? There are lakes that I know are open, days only, within the sort of area I'm going to. The meeting's near Sandhurst. Sandhurst is shut. But there are other lakes around there. Obviously, it's Carp Heaven, Colne Valley, sort of around there. But I don't know what to do. I'm going to have to make a couple of phone calls and actually phone the lakes direct, explain the situation, and see if they'll allow me to come. I'd rather fish 2 or 3 daytimes while I'm down there. Not to mention the weather's looking a bit milder next week. But somewhere I can fish out of the van would be nice. So you're not set, because it's cold and we're not setting bivvies up and everything, are we? It's literally days only fishing, so it's got to be fairly close to the vehicle or whatever. But yeah, it's a funny one. Am I breaking a law because it's work? Fishing's kind of been my job for the last God knows how many years as well. So I know the big companies are out there carrying on as normal, when it comes to producing content, filming, videoing and stuff, as they were in the first lockdown, as they should be. That's their business, that's their work, isn't it? So it's a bit of a grey area, isn't it, I think? Maybe keep your gob shut and keep off social media and crack on. Do you reckon that's the one?
I think yeah, you fall between the cracks of those, when legislation is made quickly and on the hoof, they're not going to cover every eventuality. And so, the work thing, fishing for work. I know that at Bower, at the moment, we're not going out and doing features and, on the bank just at the moment. And we're sort of taking it cautiously. But, I know that other tackle companies and other media organisations are out there and, they can justify it is their work. So it's a tricky one. It is a grey area. And I think it's individual common sense, isn't it? So.
Moving on, I don't know if you've seen this, Mark, because I missed it, but this tiger carp of
oh yes, the stripy simo.
I mean,
that's the best way of describing it.
I know nothing about this, so maybe you take over, Mark. But is it just a freak? Have they designed it? Have you spoke to Simo, Tom?
No. For all accounts, I've just seen the pictures and read. I didn't see what the final price it was went for, but I think they like kind of holding some sort of auction, and it was just your normal bog standard pale looking Simo with like 3 or 4 black stripes going down vertically, almost as if it was kind of a random perch sort of striping on it. And
he's auctioned it?
I believe so, yes. But one thing I can't help but think, will those stripes last if someone paid a lot of money for a fish that is going to be caught again in a few years and they'll recognise it through its scale pattern and we'll be back to normal?
I'm guessing you spoke to Simo, have you, Tom? You're normally pretty efficient with these things.
Yeah, I've spoken to Simo about a number of things over the years, although not with this one. My colleague Chris Hayden, who does a lot of the carp print side of things, has dealt with this story recently. Simo first put it up on Facebook sort of in the autumn, I think when they were sort of netting one of their stock ponds. And yeah, just a freak. It's not, he's adamant it's not a koi. It is a mirror carp with these sort of almost like a tar marks down it. So someone sort of with a big brush has sort of dashed it with tar or something like that, and then it was auctioned off over Christmas. Starting bid was £500. I'm just looking down, we put it in Angling Times this week. Starting bid was £500 and it was auctioned all just over Christmas, I think. And Todd Bermanner, I think Todd Bermanner paid $2,500 for it. So
wow.
Well, co-owner Linda Candy. I don't know Todd Bermanner. It's not my area of the country, but I know Chris, my colleague, is from that part of the world, and he says that the co-owner there, Linda Candy, bought it as a surprise for her husband, I think. I'm just trying to read this as we're recording, and it's due to be delivered in February. So, I mean, the picture, I think the original picture is from that when it was netted back in the autumn. So yeah, as Mark says, I mean, you hope those stripes are for life and not just for Christmas. But we when we put it up on Facebook, when we shared Simo's post back in the autumn, and we did get we asked a few people, have you ever seen anything like this before? And we did get a few pics, and I think I might be wrong here, but you mentioned Sandhurst a moment ago. I think there might have been a fish in Sandhurst or close to there that had really similar markings. I mean, it's clearly rare as hell, but it might not be unique. So it'd be interesting to, if there's any sort of fish biologists out there, because obviously it's not like a two-tone, which is often explained through sort of a shock or a spinal deficiency and things like that. This is, it's like a perch, as Mark said, like a carp perch. So let's hope that money is well spent and that those stripes stay around. Yeah.
Do you know what size it was or is being sold at, and what a fish of that size normally sells for?
It's £13, I think. It was £13. I think probably that would have been when it was last netted, so it might be nearer 14 or something now. I don't. I've been down to VS Fisheries and I've spoken to Simon Scott a few times, and I can picture their pricing boards in my head, but off the top of my head, I'm not entirely sure. But a lot less than £2,500.
Yeah, a couple £100, I think, for a 12, £13 normally, depending. I mean, you never know with these fish breeders; they won't ever admit it publicly, but they like to tell you the fish are younger than they are, and that it's these are the fastest growing C3s we've ever had, and charge a bit more for them, where it's a C5 that's been stunted for 3 years in a stock pond and just getting more for it. So obviously they're never going to admit that, and this is extremely allegedly, but I know it happens. But we bought a few fish, that 8 to 12 pound bracket, which I forget what they normally, C3s or C4s are they?
Probably C4s, I think.
Yeah. They're generally a couple hundred, 150, 200 pound each, I think, from that 8 to 12. So 13 to 14 could be the next one after C4, C5. So maybe it is 400 pound a piece normally. Not sure. Buy fish small, grow them on. For that extra 2 years, you're probably saving, I bet they're a third of the price if you buy them kind of 2 years before. I would say as a rule. But yeah, I'd looked at the pictures that you'd posted, Tom. You sent me the link to the article, and it does look different. Like I say, a bit perchy. Will it stay like that? It's certainly unique. I mean, from a business point of view, okay, this lake, Tubberman, but it could be anywhere. They've bought it because it's unique. I mean, if this fish goes big, it's definitely going to sell tickets, isn't it, long term? Could be a shrewd investment. It could be a USP for a fishery. You never know. It could die the first spring. £2,000 down the drain. It's not a ridiculous sum of money, is it? £2,000 for a fish, I suppose. Tax deductible, no doubt. Interesting. Okay. What else do we have on the list? It's on the net with carpfeed.com, Angling Times, and Carpfeed these days. So, Grenville, it's always in the news. We talk about it a lot. Tell us.
Yeah, I mean, Grenville, Roger Bacon there, who's smashing it up. Just before Christmas, we had a 64.9 capture that we reported on Carp Feed. Jamie Collins, who I know's had a big hit out of there before, I think he had 330s and the 64.9, which is the big one with its lovely name, green, whatever numbers after it are. So tricky one to, it hasn't got a name like Mary or Two Tone or anything like that. So it's a bit tricky to keep tabs of it. But yeah, what a place Grenville is. I think it's done 1350s this year or something. I did see a half-year review. I think Paul Miller puts together that Grenville shared on Facebook this week. It's two 60s, over a dozen 50s, and then just to be in the top 50, it's £45 and above. And you can't really argue with what it is. Whereas Home Fen might have Israeli fish in it. Grenville, whatever you think of the looks of the fish, and some of them are absolutely stunning. He's been done the right way, hasn't it? It's been done from the ground up. You say buy small fish. They did. They grew them on. And this is what it's a rich gravel pit, isn't it? And it's and obviously Roger's on this show as well. He's the main guest, and he does say it, because I've seen even with his fish and this 64, when I saw the postings of that, there's the knockers, the naysayers underneath, wrong'uns, and they are anything but wrong'uns. You might not like the look of some of them. The bigger ones have less scales. We know fish with less scales grow bigger, that's just a fact. But the owner, Paul, was shrewd enough to be aware of that, and I think the original stocking, which anybody can look at all these stockings on the Grenville website. I forget it, but sure it won't be hard to find, grenville.co.uk or something. Grenville Lakes, I think it is actually. These fish are documented from very small, aren't they? Like 4, 5, 6 pound. They're very small. I think his original stocking was 1,200 Simos, and he bought 200 of the very scaly Andy Parker fish, Handicarp, I think the company's called. And Handicarp, I only remember that because we bought a load of them for the late Roger runs in Manchester, Deadman's. Extremely slow growers. They've been in there 15 years nearly in Deadman's, and they've just hit £30 now. But they're incredible, fully scaled linears, double row linears, and the Grenville ones, I think they've just hit £40. Which again shows, is testament to the water quality in the lake, and it's deep and it's big, isn't it? I think it's 70-80 acres, and there's a lot of water volume in there. But you can't knock those fish. You might not like the Simo looking big ones, but
there's a balance of all sorts in there. There's really pretty 35, 40 pounders and pale 50s and 60s, and I think those, there's lots of fish in there that don't get caught for 2 or 3 years, and I looked at those numbers, and I've spoke with Roger at length about this, and quite often the 50s have been caught this year, and new ones, and the known 50s haven't been out this year, or most of them. And quite often, the 54s that Rogers had, it was last out at 42 or 39, 3 years ago or 4 years ago. And I forget the number now. I'm making it up a little bit, but there might be 50/50s in there at the minute, even though it's only done like 15 or something. But just going off the weights that they know and what the last captures were and the ones that haven't been caught, it's incredible. It's incredible. And there's hundreds of 40s, and they're growing constantly. I know Paul has a rule on there, no zigs, so there's no captures on sort of plastic baits. I don't think you're allowed to use particle either, so it's boilies and pellets, which is all to grow the fish. And it just goes to show what you can do with the fishery. It's in a good part of the world, isn't it? Let's be honest. The Cambridgeshire kind of heat underneath. We know, Mark, don't we, how good those lakes are around there. We spent a lot of years fishing in that part of the world. But just an incredible lake, and the knockers, it's just pure jealousy, because it's as true as it can be. What can you do but document the fish from about £4 right the way through to 60? There's not a lot more you can do, really, is there? But incredible lake, and more on Grenville shortly with Roger live from the banks of Grenville. Think it's going to do a record?
Well, I mean, we were chatting before this, weren't we? And I did mention to you that the other place is home fen, isn't it? Whether anglers like it or not, home fen has got Wayne Mansford caught a 75 from there last year. He said at the time that I think he was going to claim the record. Almost in a kind of sod it, I'm going to claim it sort of thing. Which is absolutely his right to do. Whether the BRFC whether they officially allow it or not. That's probably the only other water that rivals Grenville. I think the owner and Martin Dawson of Fenland Fisheries, who runs it there, is probably a bit more publicity shy at the moment, and has sort of stopped responding to our requests to know what's in there, which I can understand from his point of view, that there's so much turbulence that goes on. Whenever you mention home fen, then people have got an opinion, which is fair enough. So I reckon there are probably more 60s in there. Well, I'm sure there are more 60s in there than anywhere else in the country, but I think us knowing exactly how many there are in there will get harder and harder, because I think fewer reports will emerge, and fewer, there'll be less transparency about which fish was caught at which weight. I mean, Wingham was up and coming, wasn't it? Talking about rich waters. Wingham did an 83. I know Simon Crowe always bangs the drum that to him that's his record. It might have been dropsy, or it might have been full of fluid, but it's £83.12, and it was the record. There's no bigger carp produced, and you can see the logic behind that. So you could argue that will never be beaten. But Wingham, Black Spot in Wingham Carp Lake, I think it is. There's two lakes there, the main lake and the Carp Lake. I think Black Spot was a 60, but I don't know. I've not received many reports from there too recently, over the last year, whether COVID sort of shut down the fishing a little bit. Beyond that, there's always some secrecy. I think there were some rumours that got everyone excited last year. I think Simo thought one of his fish had done a record, and there was all sorts of talk. I remember having a bit of a goose chase for a couple of days trying to nail down what fish it was and where it was. There'll always be these waters that are beneath the radar and will stay that way. But of the public-facing waters, I think Grenville and home fen are sort of out in front. It might be cyclical, Wellington Country Park was always up there for years, wasn't it? As the water full, and then it suffered, fish losses, oxygen crashes, that sort of thing. So these things tend to go in cycles. What will, by the end of 2021, we might be talking about a new superwater, mightn't we? But they tend not to spring from nowhere. They tend to involve a lot of hard work and years of effort, don't they?
That's exactly. I fished a session on Brazen Hose 1 for the first time this winter, and I had no idea. I mean, I lived not too far from there when I was sort of leaving school age before I left home in the Cotswolds, and they'd not long been stocked at that time, and no one was interested in fishing those lakes. I remembered Linear well, but there was a lot better waters in the area that I used to fish at the time, and it was always a runs water, but they were very small fish. I was on there to meet Tom Maker for an interview. It was only a few weeks ago, and he said 330s, or was it 500? It was a lot. 3, 4, 500, I can't remember, a lot. And maybe 1540s in B1. It's a super water. Like, okay, they're not the 50s and 60s of Grenville or Wellington, but as far as lakes go, it's like the Croatia-Slovenia lakes. You can catch 5 to 10 fish a day, and they're big. They're not, they're not doubles. They're chunks. Every fish I saw caught while I was there was kind of 24, 25 pound plus, very nice looking fish. And I suddenly thought I'd travelled down to Farlow's. I've done a bit of day ticket fishing, obviously, over the winter so far. And they've all been kind of super waters. Farlow's got a ridiculous amount of fish for the size of the lake. The lake just at the back, Thorny Weir, which is fairly quiet in comparison to these other super waters. It's got an incredible stock of fish. You look at your Sandhurst. I mean, there might be a dozen 40s in Sandhurst. It's incredible how these fish are growing, and I like the term super water because that's kind of how they're becoming now, I think. We were talking, Mark, weren't we? The lake that you fished, the big old mere, the one right next door to it. Same sort of thing. Yeah. How many 40s in there?
Oh, I'm not lot. Sure. I think it was about something like between 20 and 30, maybe a bit more. But yeah, if you watch there was a video with that Fox put out recently with Jim Wilson and Lewis Porter were fishing there. It was all the info was there. I was actually on the lake next door at that time during Storm Francis, getting absolutely soaked. It was great.
It seems like 5 minutes ago where there were 20 to 30 40s in the country. Yeah. And we're now talking about that in one lake, and there's lots of them.
The Brasenose waters only opened to the public in 2007, Brasenose one. So I think there was test fishing in 2006. I know Martin Bowler wrote in Angling Times at the time. I mean, that's 15 years ago. That's in the grand scheme of things, that's nothing. So if you're thinking about starting a superwater, do it. I mean, there's been going off on a tangent, but there's been a big boom in lockdown of sort of homebrew fish rearing, hasn't there? So with good and bad side to that, but we could be seeing the COVID generation of fish, couldn't we? In another 15, 20 years, they could be somewhere.
Yeah, I've trademarked the brand COVID Carpers in the first lockdown because there was definitely less people fishing than there are now. But a few people not so publicly were, on private lakes, which we can talk about it now because it turns out it was allowed, as long as people were allowed on lakes for security reasons. Their businesses at the end of the day were valuable livestock, so it was no problem. But yeah, I was locked away for a month or two, sort of behind closed gates, and we were the COVID carpers. Unfortunately, even though it was spring, most places fish crap. Everyone I know in a similar situation that was fishing during that first lockdown. It was pretty awful. And now, I mean, our local park lake here in Blackpool's got 4 inches of ice currently at the minute, so we're all bored out of our heads, not being able to do much. But and thanks to Jamie Cook, we can go fishing. But is it worth going fishing? I don't know. But these super waters are changing the game because there is enough fish to be catching in winter, isn't there? I think it goes patchier, but there are days where it would just do a load of bites and maybe nothing for a few days. And I don't know, have you heard of much being caught at the minute, Tom? You getting any reports?
I'll be honest, it has sort of slowed down a bit, and I think, we can go fishing right now, but as you say, there's a lot of people with still waters where it's not wobbly. There's a lid on a lot of, it's those day sessions tend to lend themselves to going down the river, don't they? And catching perch is easier for your Instagram account, isn't it, than sitting it out for a carp. I'm sure there are people out there. There are some waters. One of the staples of our reports was Orchid Lakes, and obviously Marsh Prattley's passed away not too long ago, and I know that was closed in the immediate aftermath. And I don't think I might be wrong, but I don't think there's a sort of roadmap for it reopening just yet. But really? So yeah, there are waters where Linear's flooded out. So when you talk about waters that are, whether you could fish or not, you can't get on Linear because it's in that sort of Windrush Valley where it floods. So yeah, not getting a huge amount of catch reports in. Not in this country. As I said to you, we've had a great one from across the Atlantic.
Yeah, tell us about that. So when we first started the Carp Cast, 3-4 years ago, when we were the only podcast, I counted 20 on Spotify the other day, carp fishing podcasts. Mark, they contacted you, didn't they, the Americans?
Well, I kind of contacted them. I reached out. I was whoring our podcast out everywhere, including some of the American forums, and I had an episode where I spoke to three of them. Well, two British expats over there, and then one American fellow who was a great angler and a tackle dealer over there, and it was eye-opening. It was eye-opening how widespread the carp are over there. I mean, I always thought of just long lean commons and those strange-looking buffalo carp, but they're everywhere. And I've got one of the fellows I spoke to, Dean Brooks, who's on my Facebook, and he posts some beautiful fish. Some what would they look like? Your traditional long lean leanies.
They were part of, is it like the American Carp Society or something? And this capture we're getting onto now, Tom, is this anything to do with, are they expats? Are they Americans that are catching them? Tell us what you know.
This guy is a 27-year-old lad. It's called Adam, and he got in touch with us, Adam Tomlin, and he got in touch with us at Angling Times, and then it was passed over to me, and I had a transatlantic sort of email conversation with him. Really lovely bloke. I now follow him on Instagram from the Carp Feed account, and he is a passionate carp angler, and I had to double check. Are you an expat? And he's like, no, he's born and bred in, I think, Tennessee. I think he's from. I might have that wrong. It might be Indian.
Yeah, it was. I read it. Yeah. Oh no.
I'm trying to look at my notes as we go along, but he caught this fish from the Midwest. A bit of poaching, because angling isn't allowed on this venue, so it was a bit of opportunist poaching. And he calls the water the Meres because it reminds him of the mere where the Black Mirror lived. So he knows he's a 27-year-old American, but he knows folklore of British carping, and clearly, they look across the pond to us for inspiration. He's a member of the American Carp Society, and this fish, a 59-pound 4-ounce mirror, as far as he's aware, is the biggest mirror ever sort of caught and released in that country. Obviously, one of the reasons he didn't want to name the water is because for fear of bow hunters who obviously don't catch and release. But this, I said to him, how much of a shock was this? What's the general stamp of fish? And generally it's 30s and 40s, not to be sniffed at. His PB was 36 pounds, I think, before catching this. And it was I think it was a day session. He was in the pouring rain. He said it was the last session before it got cold out there. It was sort of that, typical classic carp conditions over here, wet and windy and mild. And he didn't take buzz bars, didn't take buzzers. His rods are on the ground. One tore off, and he lands a 59.4 mirror. He sent us a clip of him releasing it, and you can sort of hear his heavy breathing and him sort of in awe saying, "Off you go." It's a pretty small clip, and the fish is just sort of waving its tail as it slips away. But it's one of those stories, I can be blasé about 50s and 60s in this country because I get to talk to the captors, quite regularly. But when you hear of something like that in a country that isn't known for its carp fishing, it fired me up. I love that sort of stuff, and I think America is that next frontier. I know British carp anglers have been going over to the St. Lawrence, and Steve Briggs did a video not too long ago on that massive lake that I can't remember the name of it, where Carl and Alex have also done a video, but. Yeah. It is America's huge, compared to France or even Europe as a carp fishing destination. America has so much potential, and the fish looks lovely, doesn't it? You've seen the story. The fish has got big plated scales. It's big. It's a fat fish, but it's it's classically proportioned. It's not one of these buffalo carp. I'm excited, but I'd love to go on an American carp fishing adventure. It seems the next frontier, or the next untapped place to go.
It's incredible. The fish is stunning. It's golden orange, big plates, like you say. I'm just reading through your piece on it now. He knows about carp fishing history. He's named the lake the Mere, basically after the Black Mirror Mere. He's using quarter end tackle, Ronnie Riggs, fake maize. Like, the guy's a full blown carp angler, and it surprises me. I wonder if his parents or something were possibly expats, or it seems that he knows too much about English carp fishing to have just discovered it. But the fact that he's contacted you guys, you know, a UK news source where the fish has obviously been well received, you know, it's got you excited about it. I'm sat here thinking about, blimey, America's going to be on the list for a fishing holiday at some point, you know, a carp fishing holiday. It's a good thing, and obviously, you know, we followed this a few years ago. I remember seeing the picture of that 62 from California. Was that bow hunted?
I think that was caught. There's the common. There was a 62 common, which we think is the biggest sort of deliberately caught by coarse anglers, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And there was in the early days of carp feed. One of my favourite stories was a 44-pound common caught from this little concrete bowl in the middle of South Central LA. It was just sounded a genuinely dangerous place to fish. I mean, we talk about park lakes over here. I mean, that's proper dangerous, a bit sketchy. And this monstrous, well proportioned 44-pound common. I mean, that's still up on the Carp Feed site. If you search for LA and carp, you'll see it. So there's definitely and I think the bloke who caught it goes under the name of California Ghetto Carping on Instagram. So, there's a small band of really dedicated carpers. This lad who caught this one in the Midwest, his dad taught him to fish, but I don't think they're expats. I think they're, thoroughbred American fishing family, and he's just captivated by the British way of doing it. And I think you'll know that from your time in Europe, that we shouldn't be arrogant as English carpers that, we might have popularised modern carp fishing, but we don't know everything. We're not the best. There's other ways of doing it, and that extends to the US as well.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, thanks for your time, Tom. We're going to try and keep this regular. I know we've said this a lot over the last 2 years, but we're all fired up for it again. Mark and I are enthusiastic. We had a great time recording our main bit, didn't we, Mark? We were laughing most of the way through it. We're fired up for this again. There's nothing else going on in lockdown, so if you would be kind enough to join us for as many as you have time to do, really. Every time we get on, we'd like you to do the news, and I think monthly we're going to have a look at doing a bit of a live drunken one like we did with Frank and Julian and Rob and Dave Lane and everyone else. We're just going to invite whoever we can get and have a bit of a free for all with beers involved. I think maybe towards the end of every month, so it'll be a couple of weeks. That one, if ever you're free, we would love to have you on.
Well, it's great to see you back. Genuinely, there's a sea of podcasts, but this is the original and the best, isn't it? So,
yay!
It's good to see you back.
Thank you. Shout out to Tom. Hopefully, as long as Tom's available, we're going to keep him regular. Breaks it up. I mean, you just doing all the news and on the net, Mark, I think. Tom's a lovely fella and extremely knowledgeable. I don't know if you've clocked a lot of the photography and stuff he's been doing, especially during lockdown and stuff. He lives in Oxford, so I like a lot of the Oxford stuff as well. I used to go out and pals were at university there when I was 18, 19, long time ago. But,
I do like good photography for people who know what they're doing. And should we do the carp aren't sheep that I've put in the in our little notes, because that's photography related.
Go for it.
Yes, this is us. That's me just knocking the filter there. If it just went rattling in lug oil,
we all know.
Yes, I'm rattling it. I'm getting wound up.
Carp and not sheep.
Everybody likes to catch a nice dark carp. Underexposing your photographs to make them look dark doesn't work. It just makes your entire picture look shit. It takes the detail out of the fish, and it just don't do it. It looks wrong.
So, tell me,
mad.
I've not actually been keeping on top of carpy pictures for a little while.
This is me being totally uncarpy again.
Is this a thing at the minute? Is it Instagram or whatever are people?
Instagram, Facebook, I've seen it everywhere. It just seems that people are underexposing or just adjusting it on their computer when they've uploaded the pictures and just darkening them up, maybe to make the fish look darker. Well, I don't know, but it just looks crap. I appreciate good detail in a fish. If a fish is not black as the ace of spades, then it's not.
But, pale fish are not carpy, Mark.
Oh, I don't know. Brazen is carpy.
If you fish for pale fish, you're going to have to doctor him or not put the fish up on Instagram, which I'm guessing.
Don't fish for pale
what's
fish,
the point
then?
of even catching them if you can't post a scaly banger?
Oh, shut up.
Is that, I've not actually seen this. Is that what people are doing? They're underexposing fish to make them look dark. I mean, I've got
A lot
a tip
of them
for
are, yes.
I've got a
I bet it
photography.
doesn't take me... Well, my battery's nearly dead on my phone, but it would not take me long to go on Facebook or Instagram and find one.
I've got a tip how to make your fish look dark. Fish a weedy lake. That's it. Well, water's clear, fish go dark.
That is true.
It's easy enough.
Here's an anomaly. Remember Elstow 1?
Yes.
You ever fished a lake as clear as those two pits? Clay pits. They were both mega, mega clear, yet there was quite a lot of pale fish in there, especially one. When you've got fish in there called the white slug.
Yeah, that's a very good point, but you know something else that could be a contributing factor.
Sweet corn and hemp.
Yeah.
By the truckload.
Yeah, and it's very deep, isn't it? So presumably fish are sitting deeper, spend less time in the sun. I don't know. I don't know. It's a good point. I can't. It was clear, yeah. I do remember now. It's clear because we talked about it was when we fished on there. It was the early days of the underwater filming, wasn't it? And I remember John Bannister took the technology to Corda, and he was involved in the very first underwater Corda film. And I remember we were quite close at the time. He'd started the Carp Addict magazine. We were fishing together a lot, and we were looking at venues to do it on, and we did talk about Elstow, and we decided we couldn't do it because it was too deep, even the spots in the corners.
Man, as soon as they start feeding on Elstow 1 with it being clay, it just milks up. You wouldn't have seen a thing.
That's the other problem, is soon as the fish start feeding it. And maybe that's why, I mean, it does go milky, that lake, doesn't it? Especially when the wind was blowing at one end. Do you remember that bottom bank when the wind was blasting up there?
If you had a big wind, there'd just be like streams of just like white running back out into the lake with the undertow.
Yeah, maybe that's why they've stayed fairly pale in there. But you take a lake like Clearwater, former sponsor of the Carp Cast, Alex has done an insane job up there with Mikey and the lads. They stocked a lot of fish probably 2 years ago now, 2 to 3 years ago when he first took it over. When you look at those fish there and maybe its first capture, where you're rustling a lot. Russell.
I was having a scratch.
When you look at the fish there, even like their first capture, maybe after they've been put in the lake, you see the pale stocking pictures, and you see it even a few months later. It looks like a different fish. You can tell it's the same because of the scale patterns, but just looks totally different. They just look like real old classic carp. So what happens? You get a clear lake, and the fish naturally darken up, but it doesn't take long in a clear lake. I don't think it doesn't take long at all. And again, that's why one of the reasons why it was always nice. Them winter captures that you get, you might have fished a lake all summer and you've had a few pictures and stuff. You catch one in the winter, and we always used to say, didn't we, autumn colours or winter colours.
Yeah.
I mean, just everything comes out because the water generally goes clearer when it's colder, when the water temperature's colder, and the fish they just change colour, don't they? The bright orangey colours come out and on the bellies and the dark backs. I mean, it does look nice, doesn't it, when you see like a nice coloured carp. I mean, I'll have to learn Photoshop.
Yeah.
Oh, you got a cat, pussycat.
Yeah,
Lulu,
this is Ragnar.
Where's the cat? Come on. Let's virtually sit on each other.
Go on, fight. Go on. Ooh.
What's that? Where's the cat?
I don't think this fella's impressed.
Where's the cat?
What was that? Go on, jab.
Where's the cat?
Jab.
Where's the cat? Get it. I'm sure this is highly entertaining for those people listening on audio.
Have you seen this? Yeah, oh, he's going off. Right, okay. Don't knock the desk.
Don't see some dog porn. Look at the size of her titties. Massive because she's pregnant.
Oh, wow.
Right, go on. Be off with you. Yeah, all good. Shall we get our main guest in?
Let's do. I'm looking forward to this.
fan and friend of the Carp Cast, had a very special capture recently, and we got him. We recorded him.
Feels like I'm in love. Just like the first time I met you. It feels like I'm in love. Just like the first time I met you.
So here on the Carp Cast, many of you didn't know Roger Bacon before, will have known him through being a regular guest. We've done some hilarious podcasts, including the drunk ones with Kevin Nash a year or two ago when we were up there fishing. But it's nice to get a Carp Cast regular and all-round good angler on here just as he's caught a PB. So how long you been fishing, Rog?
What
Ever.
Fishing career ever? Oh God. Well, before I was 15, but let's call it 15. 55 now. So what's that? 40 years?
Yeah.
At least 40 years for carp. Yeah.
So that's quite a long time. So at this stage of your fishing career, to have caught a PB, it's a pretty big deal, isn't it? So tell us, how big, what, where, why?
Yeah, a PB. Obviously, my previous PB was when me and you fished. I had the opportunity to fish Kevin Nash's lake, the Cops Lake. Had it to ourselves that year, and it was pretty obvious that one of us were probably going to catch that big common. I managed to nab it.
Yeah, swooped.
Change of fortunes. It's always been you in the past. That's always managed to bag the target fish, and we've both been on the same water. So it was nice to get my own back. So yeah, had that one, the wood carving, 57.3. I don't know how many years ago it was now. What do you think it was? Probably 4
2 years
5?
ago, I think. No, it wasn't that long ago. Oh, yeah, maybe nearly 3 years.
Yeah, it was I think it was at least 3. So yeah, we had that, and then since then, well, to be fair, I've not really fished any waters that I've probably had a PB in. Upper 50s is getting on for special fish in the country. So yeah, I joined Grenville with obviously the hope of the many big fish that are in here, and always that chance of a PB. So I fished it for 3 years. I've had some really, really good hits, as you know. 60 fish in one session, 40 fish in another session. And always found it quite consistent catching on here. It's, there's a lot of fish in here. So yeah, I've always been all right. But for the last couple of years, I've really, really struggled. Even though I've been getting the bites and catching the fish, I've just not been able to get the bigger fish. I've watched anglers come on. Just this season, for instance, I've watched anglers come on, and they'll be not catching many, but they'll get one bite. It'll be a 40. They'll get a couple of bites. It'll be an upper 30 and a 50. And I was only saying to Paul, the owner, at the start of this session, I could really, I feel overdue for something, for a bigger fish. And yeah, fortunately, one of them sessions that could have easily have not been. I started the session, got down there. I fought quite foolishly, really, because it was freezing cold. There was fog in the area, a couple of days of really dense freezing fog. So I did 24 hours in this peg, literally casting into a cloud. It looked like the fog was that thick. You could only see 25, 30 yards out in front of your peg. So I call it using the force. You've got no features to cast to. You've really got to cast a direction, feel it, try and find your area. Did that, and nothing happened for the first 24 hours. Paul came round for a chat with me on the first morning, and I said, I'm considering leaving because it's freezing cold. I can't see what I'm doing. I was not feeling confident. So yeah, I might as well pack up and come back the next week. Next week's weather's looking really, really great for December.
Yeah.
So that was the plan. So Paul left me, and I thought, right, I'll have some breakfast, maybe have a cup of tea, and consider packing up. And an hour later, while I was starting to pack up, I had my first bite, and that was a fish, a good fish as well. It was just over 42 pound. Obviously, bit of a weird sensation actually playing a fish in that fog, where you stood on the end of the platform watching your line coming off the tip of your rod going straight into a white cloud.
Yeah,
strange it was. Anyway, landed that fish 42. And obviously, decision to be made. It was like, right, well, I'll sacrifice next week's fishing. I'll carry on and see where the session goes from there.
And then what happened? I remember speaking to you when you had the 42. You were literally like, all my gear was in the car, and I've had a bite, and then had to make the decision: do I just go home and come back next week? You know, when the weather's looking a bit better. And I remember saying to you, like, it's one of the better ones. You know, you could be on a group of big fish here. You know, maybe it's worth staying. So you were like, yeah, well, I'll definitely stay another day. So then what happened?
Yeah, so as you say, you said to me it's one of the better ones because, you know, even though I've been getting bites this season, I've actually struggled to pick up the better fish. So, you know, obviously I just decided, right, I'll stay, rebaited the area. You know, I'm not fishing far out, 25 wraps down the back of the wind in I'm fishing a bay that has been quite left alone really for the majority of certainly mid to late summer. There's a lot of weed in this bay. I think Paul actually advised the lads, if they do go in this swim, not to fish far out because there was weed to the surface. Anyway, I've waited until now the weeds drop. The weed's getting quite light, so if you do get a fish stuck in it, you can pull and you can you know it comes out. So yeah, just rebaited, set my rods again, and then just literally that after that 40, that late that afternoon, the fog cleared. It's weird, isn't it? You know, having not fished in fog for a long time, just the fog clearing lifted me spirits. You could see, you know, where you're casting, and felt quite claustrophobic. You know, not being able to see everything around you. So yeah, as I say, the fog cleared, the temperature rose, and it was the next. It was during that second night. I actually had a bite through the night at 2:00 in the morning. Which I managed to get quite close in, you know, within 10, 15 yards. I could see the fish. It was a small, what they call the stockies in here, Paul's scaly fish. It was one of them that fell off. It was freezing cold as well, so I wasn't really complaining that it fell off. I didn't really want to touch it, to be honest. So yeah, that fell off at 2 in the morning. Then I got another bite at first light, crack of dawn, which was another one of the scalies. So I ended up, you know, I sorted that out. I thought I might as well use this opportunity to to redo my rods for the day, which I did. 10 more spoms out onto the area, and you know, sat there waiting for what I thought might have been the bite time. You know, the lad that was in here, there was somebody in here before me for the weekend, one of the regulars. He had 2 fish. I mean, this is an area that I was thinking of concentrating on through the winter. Obviously, him catching his 2 fish just confirmed that, you know, it's definitely worth having a go on. So, I think it was late morning, that same morning, Paul came round. I told him I'd have the 2 small ones. He had a cup of tea with me, and then obviously he's left me. And then late morning, I get another bite, real slow, did not take no line. I actually stood by the rod for a couple of minutes looking out because I had quite a few ducks diving on me at the time. And I'm thinking, oh, God, it looks like one of them ducks have picked me up. But, you know, it's went down, it tightened up. And then eventually I thought, no, it's a bit interesting, that. So I hit it. Obviously, fish on. Played it all the way in, no dramas. Got stuck in a few weed beds. Obviously, the weed's quite weak at the minute. One thing I've done this session, though, I mean, everyone thinks Grenville's a long range water, and at times it can be. There's no doubt about that. But wherever possible on this lake, I mean, I bring a lot of rods. I bring about 10 rods with me, fishing rods. So depending on the situation, if I can, I'll use my softer rods with my 18-pound line straight through. And with this situation, I can do that. I'm only fishing 25 wraps out. So yeah, 18-pound line straight through. The fish did get stuck in weed, steady bend, and it just freed itself. 10 minutes later, it was kind of under the rod tip, 10, 15 yards out, crystal clear water. And I can see this fish now. And what
you knew it was a big one now.
Well, by this time I did, because what I thought was not a big fish, as it came into visual, I could see it clearly, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this looks all right, and then wow, it looks more than all right. And in the clear water, I could see it a couple of rod lengths out. It was spinning. It was strange. It was spinning like a bloody it was just spinning. I couldn't believe it. And I've seen the size of the fish. I could see what he was doing. Now I'm thinking, wow, I really, really do not want to lose this fish. Anyway, in the net. And then once I got it in the net, pulled it into the edge and had a look at the size of it. It had to be seen to be believed. It wasn't the longest fish, but the width of the back of it, it was, I don't even know, 14, 16 inches across the back. It was really, really impressive. I kept on coming back to my bivvy and then going, have another look at that now. And then going back to the front of the platform, looking down at the fish and just shaking my head. I'm thinking, I can't believe it's massive. Yeah, so obviously the phone call's made. Paul comes round and he confirms it as one of the big uns. It was actually out a couple of months ago, 2.5 months ago, 57, mid 57s, and obviously on the month, 58, 58.3, 58.5. It was bouncing at the actual scales, so I took the lowest 58.3, whatever really a PB. Obviously on the munch, that particular fish. Come spawning next year, just before spawning, it'll be close to, if not over 60. They're all growing in here. Yeah,
I mean, it's incredible now. I mean, first of all, congratulations on the PB. Nice for a Carp Cast regular and friend to catch a big one. I mean, it's still nice. It's not quite as big as my UK PB as well, which you were there for.
I think I landed it. Did I scoop it up for you?
Yeah, you did. Yeah. As you have done a couple of me county records. That was a county record then, but yeah, 58.10 if you remember. My PB was, but you're on a lake where how many fish are bigger than 58.10? Do you reckon next year?
Oh God, it is rare. I mean, Grenville's such a special lake. It's any other lake you'd be able to say there's X amount of 50s, there's X amount of fish over 55. The biggest fish is this. On this lake, you really don't know because you can catch a fish that was last out 2 years ago at say 44. It'll come out at 52. So, I mean, I think there's 11 or 12 documented known different 50s, but we are not counting all the mid 40s that have not been caught for a year or more. I mean, that fish, the 40 I had, the first fish that I caught, 42 pound. That's not been out for a couple of years. Last out at 47, 48. It's 42 now. It's probably going to be closer to 45 by the time we get to May. So there could be 11. There could be 20. There could be 25, 50s. Who knows? We just don't know.
And there's definitely a couple of 60s confirmed ones, isn't there? Because Ian Bailey had both of them last year, didn't he?
That's right. Yeah, Ian 260s Bailey. Not a lot of blokes in the country have done that over the years. Amazing. I was there for both of them actually. He landed the first 60 as I was leaving one session, and wished him, congratulated him, and then a couple of sessions later, I was on the lake again, and he had the second one. Now those two fish are normally 60. They seem to have topped out one of them, the 65.12, which is the late record. That is always round about that sort of size. Always gets caught towards the end of the season, mid to end of May. Really predictable, that fish. But then again, I could name 4 fish probably that are 55 plus. One of them's not been out for a couple of years. 57s, 58s that have not been out this season. If you catch them now, they'll be big. If you catch them just before spawning, they'll be 60 definitely. This lake could have 4 to 6 60s at the right time of the year, next year, May. So I might beat your PB. You never know.
There's a good chance. I mean, I've got a few things to say. We've discussed tactics on there quite a bit because I was saying, you were commenting the other week that while you're probably somewhere close to top rod on there, and I've been most years, you've certainly had some of the record sessions on there. Twice you've had sort of 20 plus fish in a session that I know of, up to 60 in a 6-day session. And you felt like you'd been unlucky with the big uns, and I'm the other way in my angling. I've tend to, used to catch more fish than everybody else, and then I changed my style because I used to go fishing with a mate who he'd catch 1 to every one of my 5, but it'd be the biggest fish in the lake. And, you know, I thought that's not an accident that, you know, I was pretty efficient at catching. I'd always look for the obvious spots, you know, the little gullies or the find out local information. He'd catch 1 and it might be the lump, and I wanted to catch the big one. So I changed. You know, I remember changing my action. It was how I caught Angry, which was the big one in the Manchester Park Lake. You know, I stopped fishing for fish. The first season I fished it, I caught a dozen fish in a lake that had held 27 or 28 fish or something. I had like 12 of them in a couple of months, but none of the big 3. And I remember thinking, right, I need to not fish the obvious spots, not where the fish are, you know, just change my thinking a bit. So we were talking about this for Grenville the other day, but then when I looked at the numbers of fish that you'd had, I mean, you've still had a few 50s, haven't you? And quite a lot of 40s, but, you know, none of the absolute sort of top A team that you know of. And we were talking about changing it. And I remember saying to you, I think maybe you've just been unlucky because, you know, there'll be a time where a group of big fish, because I believe fish stay in year groups, so they move around. You know, when you got shoal fish where a lot of fish go in at one time, not talking about low stock lakes where you get a couple of fish in, you know, every year they put another 5 fish in. That doesn't seem to matter. They seem to split in their own like peer groups almost, you know, one big one and a couple of medium ones and a couple of small ones, but one boss, if you know what I mean. But on lakes like we have in Slovenia and Croatia, where they might put a ton of fish in every year, you know, and they're all 18 to 20 pound. Then fish tend to stay together. And Grenville's a shoal lake, I would say. Would you agree? Yes.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I mean, you've just got to look at the evidence. I mean, I don't know, a couple of months ago, I had a really good session. You know, I had 44 bites in 48 hours. And the biggest fish was £39. You know, that session was crazy. I was getting bites. There was obviously a severely a lot of fish in front of me because I was casting. In the end, it went dark. I was casting sort of left and right, quite wide because it had gone dark. I didn't want to cross lines, and I was still getting my bites. But there was obviously a lot of fish out there, and I say it was mid 20, low 30. Biggest fish of that session was actually a £39 mirror. And then again, you know, fast forward to this session, I've had 4 fish, 3 of them over £40. So
exactly, yes. So you're just on a group of bigger fish, maybe one of the early stockings, you know. You can look at all the Grenville fish back on the website, right back to when they were stocked, can't you? Everyone's documented, aren't they?
Every single fish that's ever been put in here has been documented. I mean, Paul put 20 fish in here last weekend. What we call the Grenville stock is he's got some stock ponds on site where there's a lot of fish in there. You know, he grades them fish. He picks the best of the best. They go into a cage, which is actually in the lake. Well, there's 3 cages in the lake. They go in there and they get fed for a year. And there might be 300 or 400 fish in these 3 cages. Then once a year, he'll go through the cages and he will take the best 20 out of them 300 or 400 fish. They will go in the lake, and then what was he actually saying to me then?
About the year groups and the fish being documented.
Yeah, that's right. And then, you know, in addition to that, the original stock that Paul put in here, they're all photographed. I mean, if you go on the Grenville website on the main page, on the internet page, and you can go back on any fish, you can see it being, you can click on it, you can see it being stocked, and then there's a growth rate chart, so you can see right from the day of it being stocked, every single capture, a record of its growth rate. So everything's there. I mean, you do get there's a few people around the country that think that Grenville has been stocked with big fish from day one, but it's not. They're all £4 or £5. They're all documented.
And they're all UK fish. Like I remember, the early days of Grenville when I applied for a ticket and got knocked back. But there was a lot of Fisher's Pond Simo fish, and then quite a few hundred from some people we'd bought fish off. Andy Parker, where the beautiful scalies and fully scaled you might have seen come from. So I mean, there's no more, are any carp English? I don't know, but like they're as English as carp get, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You know that they were all stocked very small. First stocking was what you call the Simmos, even though Paul didn't even deal with. I don't think Paul dealt with Simo when he did it. He did it. I think it might have been his partner, someone called John. He bought them off him, and then a few years later, the Andy Parker fish, the handicap, which we've put in my lake. Lovely scaly fish, zip linears, a little bit slower growing, but nevertheless really nice fish. And then fast forward many years, them two different stockings have now, obviously they've all spawned, and we've got what you call now the Grenville strain, which is a cross between, you know, the Andy Parker fish and the Simo fish. Them fish, you know, Paul's putting them in here at 10 to 15 pound. Some of them fish are just short of 40 pound now. They're growing like crazy.
It's an incredible lake with an incredible stock. And I mean, we talked about that 58 PB. You've had another one since then as well. Yeah. They had the 40 at first, then the scaly one, and then the 58 yesterday morning. Obviously over the moon, you know, PB. It's been a long time coming, and strange really, you know, you catch it. Isn't it weird how when we catch a big fish or we catch something notable, or you don't only just think about fishing. I found it's weird. I found myself thinking about, you know, my daughter who's not here anymore, and it's a bit crazy. Anyway, you know, I had that fish, and then obviously staying on for at least another 24 hours, and rebaited again. We came to what we think is bite time this morning. Any time from first light up till 11 o'clock. Not a lot happened. During the course of my session, I've not seen a fish. The area I'm fishing, you know, I can see it now just looking out of the bivvy, and I do look quite hard when I'm fishing. Not seeing a single fish. You'd not think there was anything there except for the fact I'm getting bites. And then it got just quite late actually than bite time this morning. And again, I was thinking, oh, you know, it's forecast rain tomorrow. If I do stay on another night, I've got to pack up in rain. So I was thinking, oh, I should have stayed the day and maybe go home. And then as I was thinking that, another bite off the same area. A really distinctive, short, round fish, typical Simo, 46 pound 1 ounce. So, yeah, mate, three bites. Well, 4 bites and three fish over 40 pound, which just goes to say you were just waiting until the time you got an opportunity with the group of the big uns in front of you, because, you know, imagine if you stayed another week, and that group of fish stayed there like they do in winter when they're grouped up and they don't want to move around too much. I mean, it's December now. Who knows what you could have? I mean, I bet you'd be itching to see what whoever goes in that swim after you for the weekend, itching to see what they catch. Yeah, well, we both know, don't we? Winter fishing, if you find them, chances are, you know, they're not going to move. You've really got to scare them off to make them move from wherever they've decided to settle for the winter. I mean, can you remember back in the day when me and you fished? Was it Elstow Pit 1? There was, you know, we managed to find the fish in the pump area one session, and even though it was winter, it was freezing, and there was not a lot coming out. Once I knew exactly where to put that hook bait, you know, I was getting the bite again. Bite times, you know, in the winter, bite times can be so sort of more concentrated than any other time. You can literally, I mean, this session, not far off setting your clock by it. You know, if you get a bite, is it anywhere near? Yeah, look at that. It's near 10 o'clock again. So, yeah. I remember fishing Whirly Mere on the Albert ticket in the 80s, just before we moved away. And it was December, and I'd found a spot I'd never fished before. It was like in between two pegs, really hard to cast to. And obviously we were using 2 rods in them days, and it was 12:30 every single day. I was just fishing day sessions, and it was my last week on there because we were moving down south. It was my last week in Cheshire. I was absolutely gutted to be leaving because I'd never found this, and it was all the better fish at the time, which were, you know, it was full of singles with a handful of doubles in them days, but I was catching the doubles, and I was getting 2 bites, bang on 12:30, both rods would go, and then that'd be it till 12:30 the next day. And I did once I'd sussed that out, I was just doing day sessions. It was absolutely gutted. I want to go back and fish the place. Maybe this is the month to do it. I've got a Prince Albert ticket. Just go see if that even exists, you know, anymore. But I definitely found them, and it was the better fish. And like you said, you could set your watch by it. It was literally 12:30 on the nose, a minute before, a minute after, and then that was it. Which is weird, isn't it? I mean, I don't really know what causes that. Must be something to do with how their metabolism works in colder water. That that they have a peak active time.
Yeah, it is. It's strange. It is weird. I mean, how many times have you experienced it through? When you've been fishing as long as what we have. I remember many years ago when I was in my 20s, we used to fish Chalk Marina up in Manchester, and during the winter there was one peg, they call it the long chuck, casting as tight as you could to the back of the side. It was the long chuck back then. It was probably only 110 yards at the time, but again, you could literally set your bloody watch by. You'd fish it all night. You would not get a bite. During the course of this whole winter, I probably must have had 50 fish from this peg, from this particular spot. You would not get a bite all night. It would get light, and as soon as it got light, an hour after dark, you would start getting bites through the day. Probably from 9 o'clock through till about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You'd always get 3 to 6 bites, casting to the exact same spot. Now, whether the fish were not there during the night, or whether they were there, not feeding, I don't know. It's a mystery, but either way, we could not buy a bite during the night, and it was every day, same time. And like you just said, I often think when I go for a bike ride around that lake quite often now, and I look at that spot in the winter and I think, I wonder if I should just come down with rods and just chuck to the back of this island and see.
Yeah, fish till midnight one night.
Yeah,
yeah, it's interesting. So, tell us about the tactics. I know you've kind of mastered the PVA bag scenario. It's quite common on there. A few of the England guys fish Grenville, don't they, at long range, and they have success. Cow pitchers and stuff have success with the bags. And I know it's honed your PVA bag fishing quite a bit to the point of I'm picking your brains now because it's a fantastic method in winter. But I know you've not used a bag so much this session, but tell us what you're using kind of now and why, and tell us about the sort of bag scenarios. Yeah,
well, the majority of my fishing on Grenville since I've been a member really has been, I fished it when the water's been quite warm. It's no secret. I put a lot of bait in. That's how 80% of my fishing has been done. Quite a lot of bait. Try and make a educated sort of decision or guess as to where the fish are or where the fish are going to be. Put bait in, wait for them to turn up. It's served me well for quite a few seasons. But obviously, I've not fished it a lot through the winter. You can't carry on with that same approach in the winter time. You've got to start scaling things down, which I have done. And as we've gone from summer to autumn, I've noticed that there was quite a few fish being caught on bags, solid bags, a method that I've never done before, but you look around, you see good anglers using a method that is catching fish, and as I say, carp fishing is not all about having your lines in the water. Carp fishing sometimes is about observing, seeing what's happening, seeing what other people are doing. If they're using a method, be it zigs, be it particles, be it maggots, be it any sort of method, if they're using a method you've not used before and being successful, then you've got to learn it. So obviously I thought, right, well, I need to start using this, getting used to fishing solid bags, which I've done. And, at first bags were baggy and, you got to learn how to get them all solid. But yeah, I still don't think I'm an expert. Some of the lads on here, as you said, some of the England lads that can, especially Carl, that can cast far, they've been using solid bags for years. The way you make the bag, what you put in it, the options are endless to what you can put in a solid bag. And I'm just using crumb. The body I'm using, I'm coming it up quite fine, compacting it all down. And I've still been putting bait out there. I've still been putting probably a third or a quarter of the bait I would put out in the summertime, spreading it more, and then just fishing solid bags on it or around it. And yeah, it's been doing all right. But obviously this session, I'm fishing an end of the lake where it's very weedy, really weedy. So the areas that you're fishing to you've got to be more on point with where you're landing your hook bait. So really, solid bag fishing or PVA bag fishing or even a mesh bag, doing that sort of technique, it's a lot harder because you've got to get the cast perfect every time. Otherwise, you're winding it in. You've got to do another bag. You've got to dry it all off. So what I decided to do this session was find myself find myself a spot, which took quite a while, and then used what I just call my rig. That it's been documented quite a bit actually. That my long blowback rig, just using that as a sink.
You're avoiding the word.
What?
You call it the death rig.
Well, one of our friends, he gave it the name the death rig, because he was like, oh, that rig, it's just death to carp. They can't deal with it, and any carp that goes near it, that's it. It's the end. And so, I sort of try and avoid that, because what rig are you using, mate? Oh, I'm using the death rig. It doesn't,
it's not PC, not carp
no,
C, is it?
doesn't sound that PC, but it's basically a pop-up rig, single up bait, something you can cast. If it's wrong, wind in, cast again till it's right, bam, land it on the spot. That's what I've done. And I don't know, after every bite, 10-ish spoms over it, consisting of basically crumb, a little bit of corn, 12 milli baits, and that's been it. It's not really been it's not been difficult, to be honest. I'm only fishing 25, 26 wraps out, so it's been quite easy to put the bait out. To be honest, I've really enjoyed it, because a lot of my fishing, as I said, is putting a lot of bait out, bait and weight, and I've really enjoyed being able to control the feed, control the bait that I'm putting in. I've learned quite a lot of you with your European angling, how the lads over there are constantly spomming, topping up. If nothing's happened, more baits, more spom mix. So yeah, I've enjoyed fishing that sort of style in this session.
Yeah, I found in Croatia that you came over and we fished Sayaki, and we did that bit of that was November, wasn't it? I think you came over.
Yeah, that was a November session. Yeah, great session.
Yeah, and I moved into swim to the left of you. We dug up for a bit. You were catching quite a few, and I wasn't. So I moved to swim to the left, which I ended up fishing pretty much all winter. I did about another 30 nights in there or something. So I really, really fine-tuned it. But what I found is I was getting bites, same as when you were there, like just on dark or just before dark. Normally when we were making our tea, wasn't it, I think?
Yeah.
And we were catching till I think you were getting a flurry of 5 or 6 bites like fairly quick around tea time, up to a couple of hours into dark. And then when I moved to the left, I was catching on average sort of 3 to 5 fish between 5 in the evening when it was already dark up to like 11 at night. I ended up fishing over Christmas. Christmas and New Year, did a full session with a couple of lads there, and we ended up staying up all night getting drunk on Christmas Eve into Christmas Day. Christmas Day night. And because we were awake, we had built a big fire in the swim and we were drinking and being merry. And that, as I said, we stayed right through the night. I kept spomming through the night and the bites kept going. They didn't stop at 11 like they had done literally 30 nights I'd fished in the lead up to that, and it was the same every time. But what's happened by 11, you're absolutely knackered. It's been dark for 6 hours, and you're putting less spoms out. You catch a fish, and instead of putting 10 spoms out, you put 2 out, and then maybe after the 5th fish, you put none out because you're absolutely knackered. It's midnight or whatever, and you want to go sleep. Well, the bite stopped. Anyway, I just thought, do they naturally stop at 12 every night, or is it just because I've stopped feeding? And we found out the night that I stayed up all night, I caught all night, including my PB that night, which was 71, I think, on Christmas Day night, which was fantastic build up to it. But on a normal session, if the lads weren't there and we hadn't built a fire and staying up, I probably wouldn't have had that bite. I'd have stopped, probably same again, midnight-ish, stopped. And may not have caught it. So it's interesting what you're saying about controlling the swim, because I know when you're heavy baiting on there, as well as spomming, you can have a chunk of bait. You can have 20 key drops out in the boat, can't you, if you want to?
Yeah. That's an option if you want to put loads out.
But then that's once a day, isn't it? So it's not like that regular feeding, is it? So once that bait's gone, it's gone, isn't it?
I remember that Croatia session very well. Was that the time when I never caught anything over 57 and you moved to my left and your first 3 or 4 fish were 60s?
Yeah. And then it happened again at the end of the week. I can't remember if it was 3 60s in a row or 5 60s in a row. It's bad, isn't it? You can't remember how many 60s, but I know I had about 11 60s over that session, but it was a long session, like I said. A month.
My biggest was 57. Went to Croatia, and I thought, right, I'll probably get my first 6. But I remember that 57. It was quite memorable, wasn't it? That one, because
super long, wasn't it? Yeah.
I don't think I've ever played a fish for as long. It was no snags, nothing. It was just me, the fish, and the water. And could I get it in?
No, 50 odd minutes it was, wasn't it? And I kind of told you how it was over there. It is a bit like that, you know. Sometimes it is. I remember Drew, friend of the Carp Cast, Scottish Drew, who owns West Lothian Angling in Scotland. If you need any carp gear in Scotland, he's your man. Send us 50 quid for that, please, Drew. But it's funny, we just got to Lake Bled for the first time when we were wrecking it to start the holiday company over there. And Gasper, who's, you know, legendary status, comes over to Northern Angling Show, friend of us all. He was sat in the swim. It was raining. As we arrived, it was dark, and we literally sat down, and Gasper has a take. So he's like, Drew, you take it, you go. And so Drew's picked this rod up. It's bent over double. And he's like, we're kind of sitting under Gasper's brolly, like he's not allowed bibbies or anything on there, and sat under the brolly, raining, and Drew's like, bring the net. Gasper's like, you don't need the net, not yet, like, because he could see the rod bending. Anyway, I don't know why, but we've still got up and got the net and stood out there in the rain. 1 hour later, we're still stood there in the rain, and Drew's playing this fish. Gasper's like, I tell you, Drew, you don't need the net. And why we're still stood there in the rain, I don't know. Anyway, it happened to be. It was quite a funny story because Gasper's never caught this fish. A fish called papiga. It's papiga. It's one of the biggest fish in Bled. It was well over 60. And 3 times Gasper's given his rod to somebody else, and that fish has turned up in the net. And Gasper's never actually caught it himself, but it's been caught 3 times on his rods, but he's not caught it either time. He's like, I don't believe it. It's gone in the net. But the funny thing is, unless you like playing Bled's the same, there's no weed, it's just deep water and big fish, and it's standard for 40 minutes to an hour for a battle. It's fairly normal. And that's a long time to be playing the fish. And, you know, like Slovenia and Croatia, you're catching fish a lot. You know, you can have 5 or 10 fish a day. Pretty normal, 40 to 60 pound. And everyone's an hour battle. You know about it by the end of the day, and you're spodding in between, as we spoke about the constant feeding. Like, it's a workout, isn't it? No, your elbows.
Is it still the same sort of method on Bled? Obviously, I've never fished Bled. Is that the same as, obviously, when I was fishing Zayaki with you, you know, the locals would come down, be chatting to them, and the fish would pop its head out, and they'd be like, that's me, spom. You need to spom. Any sort of action. If you, in action, spom. The fish pops its head out, spom. Is it the same on Bled?
It does work on Bled, but Bled is probably a bit more how you fish Grenville. Get a pile of bait in. In fact, I was talking to Gasper about an hour ago on text, and he's just saying he's had a fantastic year on Bled this year. Obviously, with the lockdown, there's been a lot less tourists, been fairly quiet, and he's had the amount of 30. He hadn't had a 30 kilo fish out of Bled, which is 66 pound. He had a lot of 60s, 28s, 29s. He had fish that other people say are 32 kilo, and it's 29 when he catches it. So whether they're lying or he's been unlucky, you know, is up for debate. Not in Gasper's eyes, it's not. You know, he calls into question. But he's had a number of 30 kilo fish out of Bled this year, like a number. 3, 4, 5. I don't know, quite a few. But he's had an incredible season. But yeah, and he messaged me before. He's like, I've just put 20 kilo in now. Bear in mind it's December. You know, he's boshed 20 kilo in, and he's going to go have another hit on there because he's been having hits for the last few weeks. Like he's had a great.
Well, every morning when I'm looking at my Facebook or my Instagram, Gasper's there, isn't he? Gasper's there with a different 50 or a different 60. It just seems like he's trawling through him this year. Yeah. You know, I mean, what Gasper doesn't know about Bled, he's not really worth knowing. He's an exceptional angler, and every day I just love looking at what he's been catches.
Yeah, but it's we tell our customers on Bled, just try and get, because it's more boilie fishing on there, so it's like try and get 5 kilo boilie in every day, just on your spot, and maybe bait once a day and then once in the evening ready for the following morning, because obviously it's days only. But Gaspard definitely fishes it. Kind of, like the hits you've had out of dead man's and stuff over the years, where you're going to fish for a few days, so you go down a few days before, try and get a ton of bait in, or maybe 2 or 3 trips to bait up before you actually fish, and that really pays off on bled. But the bait and weight method definitely works. But I've seen the Italians on there. I've seen them in the evenings just spotting constantly and getting 5 or 6 bites in the evening. It's both methods definitely work on there. On that lake, but bait and weight does seem to work for the bigger fish.
Well, it's definitely a lake that I definitely need to wet a line in there one time. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I think everybody that sees the classic bled shot with someone with a carp with that church in the background all lit up nice. So it's on my bucket list, definitely.
Yeah, superb. Well, congratulations once again on a PB, Paul Bacon, because your name's not actually Roger. Roger, Paul, not Roger. Roger, not Paul.
Don't be confusing everyone, buddy.
PB got a PB. But yeah, congratulations. I'm sure from everybody at the Carp Cast be absolutely buzzing. I look forward to getting the pictures up when you get back from the session, and who knows, one of them 60s could be swimming right in front of you now.
Well, last 24 hours now, last night, we're into dark now, and did manage to, it got a little bit windy, so I struggled to get the bait out, but I have topped the area up. I've got 3 rigs on it. You can never say I'm expecting a bite, but I would be surprised if I don't get another bite. I'll be off out of the peg for 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, so yeah, feeling confident, mate. Definitely feeling confident. So like you say, if the big ones are out there, you just never know, do you?
You never know. Well done, and let us know if you catch a big one tomorrow.
Cool, mate. Nice one.
So, big thank you to Roger, one of our most liked guests. He's been bag fishing a lot, as we meant. I always avoided PVA bag fishing. I didn't like the hassle of it. When mesh bagging came out, they were called Corda sticks originally. Was it Nick Hellier who was kind of one of the first one to...
Dynamite sticks.
Dynamite sticks, that was it. Corda sticks or dynamite sticks. They're now just PVA sticks because everyone does them. But I'd kind of avoided the solid bag because it was always a bit clumsy. And I remember... who were the lads I used to fish for Nash? I used to speak to them a lot. They fished Horseshoe. And they were the first person I really saw doing that kind of long range, making really small, tight bags. Do you remember them? They used to do demos at the shows on the Nash stand. 2 lads used to fish together. One of them might have been Welsh. They might have both been Welsh.
Oh, when Londers and Flowers, was it?
No.
Match Boys?
No, neither of them are Welsh. They're Essex geezers, isn't it? No, it wasn't them. Mike, one was called Mike. They were Welsh. He's got a Welsh name.
Yeah.
Mike Jones, maybe. Mike Jones. One of them was Mike
I think you
Jones.
might be right there.
Yeah. Anyway,
I picture him.
I remember them showing me these little rock hard solid bags, tiny, like that sort of size. And he was showing me how to make them at the shows, and they were putting them on Horseshoe further than you could put any sort of lead, like on its own. And they were out fishing. Horseshoe's one of them lakes where you get 20 yards further than everyone else. And this is, there were people that fish long range, but it wasn't as common as it is now. It's as many lakes across Europe, especially Croatia and stuff where I fish, where if you can't cast 120 yards plus, kids and old men can cast 120 metres, which is 132 yards. Kids and old men cast it as standard. Whereas, I know most English people, and it's because mainly they don't need to. There's a lot of small lakes in England, but I know from our customers having them on Bear Lake, where Bear Lake's very deep and you're fishing close in, and like the longest chuck anywhere that you need to be is like 15 wraps. Like not far at all. The amount of anglers that can't fish 15 wraps properly and spod is mind blowing. It's incredible, and I know they don't really need to in England. If you had to fish 100 yards plus in every lake, more people would be able to do so. Stop scratching and rubbing. Loud, that is. Really loud. Apologies to our listeners for me shouting at Mark, and Mark scratching his balls.
I've literally just moved my leg. My odd balls. My balls are very odd.
Have you got rustly pants on?
I have not got Russell's pants on.
Just odd balls.
Just odd balls.
No, I always remember Gashper telling me when I used to get into Gashper, who's my partner in VIP holidays in Slovenia for all our new listeners. Gashper's Mr. Bled, one of the best anglers there is out there, and it's all the big fish pictures you see of Lake Bled in Slovenia are Gashper. But he's a big hunter as well, and he's telling me he can't wear his fishing clothes to go into to go hunting, even when they're just feeding, baiting up and stuff, because they're too rustly. Like fishing clothes, you think of like the cargo pants, you know, waterproofs and everything. You just can't wear them because the animals hear you a mile away. And that noise of you scratching your oddballs just reminded me of that.
Man, as you say, you know, sound travels through water 3 times better than it does in the air. Do you think the same thing happens to carp? They know when we're just walking around the lake, especially if you walk onto a swim that some heathen has filled with pea gravel.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, you've only got to put your head under the bath. You know, I mean, who has a bath anymore? Not often. But incidentally, well, we like going off at tangents, don't we? Well, I was reading the other day why Japanese people live so long. So Japanese are one of the longest living people on the planet. Now, they generally have healthier diets, eat a lot of fish and stuff. But one of the things that they reckon is a contributing factor to them living longer than us on average is it's tradition, they have a bath literally every night when they get in from like work or whatever, not a shower or a bath. And I forget, it did explain scientifically why. It might have been on one of them IFL Science, you know, that IFL Science page, which is really good. I think it was one of their articles, which is all based on studies, so it's not conjecture, it's actual
bro science.
Yeah, but yeah, I forget why a bath is so good, but we tend to not have baths anymore because every house has got a shower and we've got a much quicker consumerist type being at the minute. But yeah, having baths. But back in the days when I was a kid and you used to avoid having baths as often as I could, you know, before school or whatever. If you put your head under the bath, and then tap on the side, I mean, then it's deafening, isn't it? It's like super loud. So, I mean, is it 3 times louder in water? I thought it was more than that.
I think the sound travels 3 times faster in water.
You probably know more than me. You spend more time with your head underwater, I guess.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was back from my environmental science education days. The only bit that I actually listened to was about aquatic ecosystems and food chains and lakes.
Yeah, it makes sense.
The rest of the time I was trying to chat up this bird called Michelle. Anyway.
She's a teacher or just in the class?
No, she was just in the class and I got absolutely nowhere. She did not want to go fishing. I understand it.
I had a massive crush on some girl. She was like by far the fittest girl in the school, and I'd only moved there when I was 15, like changed school in me sort of last year. And I plucked the courage up to ask her out or something once, and the look she gave me, I've never asked a girl out since. It's like, this look of disgust. Like, what? I can't go out with you. Well, I don't take rejection very well. That's why I became a carp angler. It's just tough to talk to anyone. Although there is there's women fishing these days. But got a great face for radio.
Yeah, which is why we're doing this on video now. Is this going to help us, or is it just going to scare people off?
I mean, we're safe in the knowledge that nobody watching this is going to have any romantic intentions with either of us. There's not too many female.
Really?
And,
you've just dashed my hopes.
Yes, sorry. Have to make do with the dog and the cat. Anyway, where were we before that tangent?
Keep it carpy.
Keep it.
Oh, I can't believe I just said that.
So to go over the conversation we had at the start of this podcast, or before we started recording, Mark hates the word carpy, and he came up with the saying "keep it carpy," which I kind of like, but not seriously. It's a sarcastic catchphrase, but I think it's one that's going to stick to the point of I think we should get hats made and stuff. Keep it carpy.
I'll make carpy great again. Mind those red hats, they're going out of fashion very, very quick at the minute. But, right.
Don't start on the politics.
That's my mistake. We do not want Jamie to go on about Trump unless you've got 4 hours to spend.
I'm pretty good at trumping. That's about it.
Oh, did you see that video I put on my Facebook the other day?
No, which one? Maybe.
Oh, it's like a Zoom. This woman is doing like a Zoom class teaching.
Yeah.
And she farts, lets one rip, and she kind of like, smirks and laughs. But then all the kids, because I like when you use Zoom in certain settings, like you make a noise and your face pops up on the screen.
Yeah,
all these kids are like they're all like, chuckling. And one's like, what was that? And another kid almost not containing himself. I think she farted. I'm going to have to send you the link. I'll send it because I just want to put it up on Instagram. I must have watched it about 50 times. Just farts are just funny, and kids laughing at farts is just even funnier.
Did you see that one? It was one of them WhatsApp or virally type ones where I think the girl's in like a yoga class or something. So there's a couple of girls sat behind her watching, and she's like kind of on all fours, doggy style, and the what do they call it?
Got me there, doggy style.
Sleeping dog, did they call it or something? What's the pose? Can't remember. It's
Down dog.
Down dog, yeah. No, down dogs, is that where you're standing up and your ass is pointing in the air? This one's where you're kind of on your knees, but you're like, they do it at the end of a yoga class, like it's the position you go to if you're too knackered in the middle of the class or whatever. It might be down dog, yeah, I can't remember. But anyway, like the guy's like pushing her spine down her back to make it flatter, and she just does the biggest fart as he's pushing her down. But he's one of them that you're not escaping from. It's like she wrote the two girls behind her watching just creased just fall over. Down dog. He literally forced it out of her, it looked like, but it was a big one.
It's always been on my mind whenever I've been like on the physio's table or the chiropractor. Especially the chiropractor I used to see, you'd be there, she'd be like going up your spine, looking for the subluxations, or whatever the hell they're called. And then she's like, saying, I'm going to do an adjustment here, be like, breathe in, and then all the way out. And then as you're like right at the bottom of the exhale, she'd be like an elephant stomping on your spine as she makes the adjustment, what have you. And
excuse me.
Whenever she's doing that, I was just, hello cat.
Hello cat.
Yeah, whenever she was doing that, my butt cheeks are always clenched because the last thing you want to do is just let one rip.
I mean, it's better to let one. It's better to let one rip than actually like silently sneak a stinky one out and then just have to look at her face as you're going red. Like at least if it comes out, everyone knows what's happened. Talking of which. Our guest today, Roger, I don't know if we've already spoke about it on the Carp Cast, I don't know, but it was back end of the year, because I remember it being quite cold, so we were kind of in winter clothing, like multiple layers, like some sort of suit on, romper suit, teddy bear suit or whatever, and it was on St. Ives, and I don't think Roger had a ticket. Yeah, I think he might have been. We'd fished somewhere else, or we'd been to a winter show or something, done a night on St. Ives, and he just came for a couple of beers and a curry. And I think I fished, just nearest to the town. What's that? Was it Waitrose Corner? On St. Ives. And home with the fish we're not allowed to mention again. We've already done it once. And we've got one of us has got nipped over to the Chinese. Got a curry. I can't remember what we had, but what I do know is it gave us both the sickest farts I've ever imagined. You ever eaten like a takeaway and you can't stop farting literally all night, every few seconds, and they're the stinkiest trumps in the world, the stinkiest Donalds.
He stinks.
Yeah, there's ever been, and worse though, it's getting trapped in your suit, because obviously you're wearing like the one piece bloody winter clothing, and even the next day, like when you just opened a bit of the suit, it's not even worth thinking about. But I'm sure many people, and both of us, it hit us both the same, but onions do that to me, and I remember every dish we had. It wasn't Indian actually, because I remember every single dish we had was like an onion dish, you know, like onion bhajis, starters, and dopiatsa curry or something that's mainly like heavy on the onions, and literally every dish we had, onion rice, God knows what. And I suddenly thought afterwards, that explains a lot. But yeah, it was. It was not good. Okay, before we wrap this up, then fishing plans. Are we getting carpy at any point?
You know what? I'm kind of in a bit of a weird place for my fishing at the minute, 'cause I'm kind of getting the bug back a bit more than I have for the past few years.
Yeah, me too.
Obviously, the big pit will stay in my plans because it's kind of like that's like playing at home, if you know what I mean. If that makes sense.
Especially they're getting big in there now. It's like
definitely.
I remember when they stocked that lake. It was around the time me and you met, I think, on Elstow. You'd had the lake record at the time, hadn't you? Like a low 30 or scrape of 30. Was it 32.10? Was it, if I remember?
32.12. That was the last week in May of 2001.
That's right, because you caught a 32.12 on Elstow on that fateful night, didn't you?
The Burger King night.
Yes.
We might tell that story one day. Oh yes. I'll tell you what, just having this old mag in front of me, and I'll tell you what, should we do that little bit worth a look? Because just sneak this in quick. You seen the Old School Carp Society page on Facebook?
I have, yes. I've made a few comments in there recently. Yeah,
it is. It's just a treasure trove of just the old pictures that people have been putting up. Some real well-known anglers are on there. Pull Forward's posted on there. Steve Briggs, Ian Russell. A lot of people you won't heard of. It's just, I'm just loving it. Just looking at not just the fish, but the old tackle. The clothes. There's no reel tree there. Also on the same sort of path. Have you seen the video Dave Lane has put on a YouTube channel?
I've not seen it. I've seen him talk about it.
It's worth a watch. It's just like a montage of like snippets from the old Horton days.
Yeah.
And again, just looking at the tackle, and you recognise all the old fish from Horton. The jack, the parrots, the kois, the lumpies, the CPs, and just the old characters. And
it's the first instant big really fish water, wasn't it?
Cool. I suppose you could. I'm looking forward to the comments for that one. But yeah, after the fish were moved from Longfield, I suppose you can level that criticism at it. But
hey, no different to Home Fen, was it?
Did at the time. How can you compare Horton with Home Fen?
I'm being antagonistic, but let's be right. I mean, the fish were moved into there as big fish, and then it became one of the most prolific waters in the country at the time, Horton in its early days. But yeah, the fish weren't hand reared and not fished for before they went in there. So, but they were moved from another lake, stolen.
Arguably more pressured in Longfield. It was a smaller lake than Horton, I believe.
Yeah, they certainly.
I know it was. I've walked around at Longfield and got shown the gate that we climbed over to get in pretty quickly. Back in the day.
Yeah, is the fish still in there? I know we spoke about this in the past.
I don't know. Would it have been? To be honest, I haven't got a clue.
No, I don't know. Maybe we'll ask Laney. Laney will come on again at some point. He did do the episode 100.
Hopefully, yeah.
If you haven't gone back and listened to that, then yeah, go for it. I had another Room 101 actually. You've just reminded me of with the worth a look. The Old School Carp page that you're talking about, is it called Old School Carp Society?
It is, yes.
Is it called? Yeah. Well, that group there, at the minute, it's good because, some good old people with some great stories are there. Did you see the one the other day about what's his face with the Burfield Common at £27?
I did, yeah.
There's been some fantastic posts there, some good stories. What tends to happen with these old school groups is people get a bit elitist, which winds me up. I have to leave them after that. It's like a passive aggressive. It's like We know there was no carp clothing 25 years ago. We know there was no folded reel handles. Not that I like them now. I certainly don't. But you didn't have a choice to be trendy back then. You know, we were hand making some of the gear. You know, there wasn't that much carp dedicated tackle that you could buy. You were borrowing stuff from other, you know, there was no carp hooks. You were just buying the biggest Drennan specialist hooks that you could, or whatever. There was the Jack Hiltons, I suppose, but they were like blunt, you know.
Yeah, they had a barb about the size of half your fingernail.
Yeah, but it goes without saying, we weren't dressed in carpy green. We weren't keeping it carpy in any way whatsoever, right? That goes without saying. We all know that, right? But I've seen a lot of passive-aggressive posts of people posting like an old fish from 20, 30 years ago, and they're like, oh, in the days when we didn't have to look cool to be on the bank, you know, because they're wearing a red T-shirt and a pair of jeans or whatever. Like, we know there was no carp clothing back then. We know you're not wearing carpy clothing, but I find it quite toxic that...
Toxic?
Yeah, it's an ego boost. You're as bad as the people that are trying. If you're making them sort of posts, oh yeah, this was before it all got ruined. This was before we had to wear camo. This was before Realtree. This is before this. Well, no, you had no other choice. Number one, but number two, you posting that now, trying to make out that you're in some elite group that used to fish a long time ago, just because you've not got carpy clothing on. It's passive aggressive. It's toxic, and it's an ego boost. You're praying for likes by slagging other people off, like the modern day angler. So this is turning into a Jamie's rant, which is actually written right underneath your wherever look. But yeah, it pisses me off, and I nearly outed somebody the other day for doing exactly that. I'm not going to say who it is, and if you think I'm talking about you, then yeah, it is, because it's passive aggressive, and I don't like it.
Shall I go back and delete the post then?
But yeah, there's like great things were different back then. Some of it was because we had no choice but to do it any other way. And you know, and there's people in those groups that have been fishing longer than me. But don't be slagging off the modern day fishing by saying, "Oh, this was when before it was uncool to wear whatever clothes, or before we had unhooking mats, or before this or before that." No, it's just a sign that you're pretty old and you used to love fishing back then. But it doesn't take anything away from the people fishing now with perfectly maintained equipment, you know, with real high-tech gear or matching this or whatever. It's just the sign of the times. Times change, and God, who would want to go back to that equipment and clothing back then? Those cold sleeping bags, the wet feet under brollies, you know, the leaking overwraps, the rods that could only cast 60 yards, the buzzers that you sleep through regularly, you know, with no remote sounder boxes. I don't want to go back to all that. Stick it in your pipe.
I take modern buzzers.
You won't be fishing any lake I owned.
not mentioning any buzzers I've ever used where the receiver packed up and I woke up in the morning and one rod was in the bushes at the side, the adjustable zig, the float was laying flat on the surface, and the other rod was about 20 yards away from where I'd cast it further out and tangled in a tree.
Receivers don't work in Burger King anyway.
I think that was before receivers. It wasn't before receivers, you just didn't have that long a cable.
True. The plot thickens. Yeah, but anyway, do you not ever read a post like that where someone's like clearly having a dig at, like, kind of making out there in some elite group because they used to fish before there was dedicated carp fishing clothes, or before there was this, that, or the other? It doesn't really matter. But do you never read those posts and just think, dick?
I probably read them and kind of agree, so I'm going to have to look in the mirror.
Oh, Mark.
Yeah, you obviously. Did you see what I posted the other day?
KIC, keep it carpy.
Keep it carpy. Did you see what I actually posted the other day?
No, if you actually posted something like that, I'm going to love this now.
You are going to love this. Go back to my Facebook right now. It'll be up the top.
Okay.
It's actually a fish called Bigger from the Shallow Lagoon, St Ives.
Yeah.
I'm going to put a returning shot. And this is another one that should go into Room 101. Is returning a fish and getting wet sleeves for no reason whatsoever.
I did
Take your
see
hoodie
that.
off or roll them up, you twat.
did see
You
that
look like a
post,
prick.
but I don't
Yeah,
get offended
just-
when you say that stuff because you're normally taking the piss.
I'm taking the piss, yeah. No, I just
Oh
thought,
yeah, returning a winter chunk before it was fashionable to get your sleeves wet. See, I didn't even know it was fashionable to get your sleeves wet. I've always tried to not get my sleeves wet to the point
Me
of when I
too.
catch a fish, I'll normally put my waterproof coat on just so I don't have to change my hoodie because they're going to be slimy and stinking of fish for the rest of the session. And I don't do overnighters anymore. If I can't go fishing 10
Nobody
days
does
minimum,
right
I
now.
don't bother. Keep it carpy.
Not till Boris says you can go out and play again.
We mentioned this last time, but Rachel, Sarah Story, who does our jingles and stuff, has got actually pretty famous recently. She's her career's been flying for years, but she's now she's like Radio 1. Stood in for Annie Mac recently. If you didn't listen to our last show and you don't know, but so getting her to record the jingles might be more difficult than it used to be, although probably lockdown's the time to do it, because I saw a picture of her the other day. She'd been recording other voiceovers at home. She's doing it with a duvet over her head. She posted a picture of, like, obviously, you know, to make like a sound booth because she's not got access to a proper studio from home. And she's literally recording stuff like holding a duvet right over. But I'm definitely, next time I speak to her, I'm getting her to do a Keep It Carpy jingle. Keep it carpy. Excellent. So on that note, don't be a toxic dickhead. Roll your sleeves up. There's no need for spunky hoodie sleeves. You have actually got a real tree top on in that, Mark, so I can't in that picture.
It's a long years back. It's a long time back. And
you loved a bit of real tree, I remember, actually. You'd been to America that year.
I've been to America where it was cheap.
Yeah, I remember.
That's why I bought it, because it was cheap.
There was definitely a carp tax on Realtree when it first came over here, and it was super expensive.
Oh, without a doubt. It was
like double the price of the same T-shirt in Realtree and not in Realtree. Like double the price.
Yeah, in America, you know, we did the Florida thing. The wife loves that Big Eared Mouse character. But at the top of international drivers, your Bass Pro Shops, your Outdoor World, and there's literally an acre of just these like 4-way clothing racks, and it's just Realtree everything. You can even get Realtree lingerie for your wife if that turns you on.
Do you reckon Terry Hearn's got a Realtree bed cover?
I don't know.
I imagine him keeping it carpy.
I'm sure he does keep it carpy. Or does he not keep it carpy? Has he got stickers on his bucket like his mate Nick Elliott?
His number plate says carpy. C4RPY. He was the first one I ever saw with it. He used to have a black BMW. I think he's had a couple of the same car since, you know, like newer versions of it. But he used to have a black BMW C4RPY.
Yeah, that is.
I'm C4RPY. I'm C4RPY.
That is going to be lost on so many young people.
I know, yeah. We need to get the jingle,
That's
don't we?
Jingle.
Right.
I know I am. I'm sure I am. I'm C4RPY.
C4RPY. We can actually do CARPY, can't we? Right. Yeah. I'm going to record that. I'm going to see if I can get the backing track for that. As I said, young people have no idea what we're talking about now. But keep it CARPY. We're going to have to do it, aren't we?
Yeah.
Oh, there's so much new stuff come out of this podcast, man.
Yeah,
you know the difference when we're doing it.
Long?
I know we're doing it, but now we're doing it because we want to, not because we kind of felt forced to. Which was definitely what happened when we got stale. You know, after 3 years, and like I said, there's not too much reward once you've spoke financially, and once you've spoke about all the interesting stuff umpteen times, like the enthusiasm goes a little bit, but it's back. You're looking forward to fishing this year. I'm looking forward to fishing. We'll get some guests together and do some podcasts on your local lake. We'll maybe even look at when we set these Patreons up, the different levels. There's going to be options to come and fish with us. We're going to do draws regularly for a free holiday. Basically, sometimes it'll be a weekend's fishing. Sometimes it'll, you know, if we can book a lake exclusive. I did actually try a few weeks ago, Mark. Last time we spoke about this, about doing to like doing a draw every month for our Patreon subscribers, and then they can come for free on some of the trips. I did message about the Sitch again. Remember we had the Sitch the other year?
Yes, lovely place.
I messaged, but all the weeks have gone for this year. We were offered the Monument, but it's 36-hour sessions. But I tell you where might be. I tell you where might be a good idea, and there's plenty of time. B1, Brasenose 1, you can rent as a private booking now. All the lakes there you can now. But B1's the one. Do you know that how many? What did I met Tom Maker down there, who is Mr. B1. I met him down there to interview.
He's a
him.
machine.
Yeah, he actually had to go home. Emergencies, kids were ill, and his missus was had to go to work. Yeah, so we're going to do the interview via Skype, but I'd actually gone down there to meet him. Obviously, he's one of the best anglers there is in the UK at the minute. I think Tom is absolutely superb. But as all kind of those match style anglers are, like fishing in England now, especially as the lakes are getting better stocked, it's moving more continental style, like that match style that is normal in sort of Croatia and everywhere. Accurate casting, 3 rods on the spot, baiting continually day and night, and some of the hits that Tom's had in the last 12 months are incredible, like even for those lakes. But anyway, he's telling me about the stock of Brasenose 1. What did he say? 15 40s and did he say 530s? Something like that. Wow. It was a lot. 430s, a lot. Anyway, I was like, wow. Anyway, for a sum of money that we can work with, you can book it for like a weekend or whatever. So I think the next Carp Cast social will be on there, and there's plenty of swims on there, so we can do a few of the Patreon draws. So some lucky people who support us will get the opportunity to fish it for free. And I think the top Patreon tier that we're going to do, it's going to be an expensive one. Maybe £100 a month or something, but I think it will guarantee you a session with you or I, Mark, or both of us maybe, and an appearance on the Carp Cast. So people are paying £300 a day for tuitions and stuff at the minute, aren't they? So the top guys doing tuitions, it ain't cheap, is it? It's anything between £200 and £400 a day, depending on who it is, and some people charge a little bit more. Well,
Oh, you'd behaved yourself all evening.
I might even edit that bit out. I don't know. But yeah, so I think we'll do something like that, like the top tier, £100. If you do it for like 3 months or something, then you get a session with Mark or I, which is essentially the same as paying for tuition, but it's just an option. Obviously, you don't have to do that. But you will
Jaffa cakes thrown in.
Yeah, we don't expect, maybe a couple of people. Maybe we should start an OnlyFans, Mark, and we can do VIP tiers.
Yeah, and I can show off more oddballs.
Set you up for the oddball line there, didn't I?
Yeah, that was pretty obvious.
Yeah, I listened to a podcast the other day with some woman that's on OnlyFans. I think it was that Jackmate podcast. Have you seen that?
I've not seen that one.
Jackmate, yeah, it's all right. It's like a video podcast. Well, he has some interesting guests. I think he was a name in his own right. I don't know if he was on TV at some point. Or I don't really know. But anyway, yeah, they had some bird off OnlyFans. Her top tier on Patreon is £5,000. Her top tier, but and you basically get anything you want for that. So I don't know if she can go and do the dirty
home visits.
I'm not sure. They don't actually set what you get for it. You request. So maybe we can have £1,000 tier, Mark. Where if you ever seen Naked Martin videos.
Oh no. Right.
Maybe we could do £1,000 tier, Naked Martin. Naked Mark.
No.
Naked Mark and his oddballs.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, we could have 2 people come and I'll take them for an ice swim.
Well, this is the point. Maybe we should just do a silly high tier where basically you can choose. You want to go ice swimming, you want to go on Brasenose with one of us. I don't know, but we have to think about this a little bit more. Choose your underwear carefully. I think
I've got some camo oddballs. Now that is carpy.
Ooh. Excuse me again. keyboard. When you're talking, I can mute the mic, but when I'm talking, it's hard.
Exactly.
Fishing this year. We're going to get a couple of Carp Cast socials. We're probably on the Patreon tiers, certainly the higher tiers. It's going to be an entry level tier where you can just support us, like $5 a month or something. Then there'll be some more expensive ones where you go into like draws for a free week when we do, or weekend when we do Carp Cast socials. For maybe guest sessions with you and I, Mark. Maybe every couple of months we'll try and get a session in. Maybe a foreign holiday. Obviously, we're doing the VIP carpholidays.co.uk and Carp Circle. We're doing those trips abroad in various countries. There'll be sessions to win in that for being a part of the Patreon scheme. One day we'll get round to setting it up and we'll be able to tell you a little bit more. But apart from that, I'm looking forward to doing a bit of fishing this year. I'm planning to get around Europe. Rustler, stop scratching your oddballs.
I think it might be the beard.
No, but
the Gandalf.
I'm going to try and get around Europe. Plan to do plenty of fishing in Slovenia and Croatia this year. We're going to go out and do some filming with Brother Carp and the Carp Circle guys. We're going, hopefully I'm going to do a month on Oriana and that Extremadura sort of region. I've always fancied doing that. I was supposed to do it last year before the lockdown came in and messed everything up, but I'm hoping, what do you reckon, March, April we'll be out? It's kind of freer.
I don't know, I'm hoping so. I'm hoping this vaccine rollout has an effect, because it's all about the infections and the deaths that sadly follow. If that number can come down and down and down a bit more to a manageable level, where the NHS is not under the cosh as they are right now, but everyone just needs to behave and wear your mask.
Mask, face space.
Yes. Mask. What's funny?
It just sounds like a joke, these like government kind of catchphrases. As I said it, I was trying to get something to rhyme with bream. But I'll save it for next show. I can't think of the
dream.
Yeah, they were the three words that came into my head, and I couldn't work out a way to make them funny. But
dream team.
Yeah, dream team.
The dream team. Yeah. Keep it breamy.
Yeah, keep it breamy. BR3 MEY.
BR34M.
Yeah,
that's your new reg. I bet no one's taken that.
Nobody wants it, do they? Let's be honest. Even the bream anglers wouldn't drive around with bream written on their motor, would they? Let's be honest.
No. I even took a photo of a bream last year,
Yeah.
Yeah, the fellow I work with, Colin, he loves his bream, and he gets all excited when I tell him about these doubles that I just unhook in the edge and slip back, and he's
Colin's
like,
dream team.
No, Colin's dream bream is what I just slip back. So I just took a picture on my phone of one in the edge. But I was speaking to him on the phone in the summer, and he always asked me, have you done anything? Usual carpy conversation. I said, yeah, I had a couple of bream. And he said, oh, how big were they? He says, oh, give me a sec, I'll just have a look. I chucked him in bush. I didn't, obviously, but
I had a message off some lad during the week who wanted to go and listen to remember the Luke Moffat.
Oh yeah, that's a while back now, isn't it?
Yeah. What's the lake called?
Graviers.
About my terror session there with old Moffat.
Luke.
But anyway, I remember he was screaming at us. He was full of skimmer bream in there at the time, and you had to sling him over the fence as you caught him.
Wow, that's a bit. Was there another lake or just?
No, no, there was not another lake. Bream torture, skimmer torture, now dimmer than a skimmer. I think we should come up with some catchphrases every week, Boris style. A little challenge, maybe. Maybe you can send them in, and we'll read them out to our listeners.
Put your Carpy Boris quotes in the comments below.
Yeah, and please hashtag keep it carpy every time you post. Tag us in it and hashtag keep it carpy. Let's get it trending.
We're going to have to learn all these new social media hashtags and blah de blah.
Oh, if you want
the world
a bit
is different.
If you want a bit of a laugh, Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, doesn't matter which. Search for the hashtag no fly list and have fun. So basically,
fly list.
Yeah, I'm not even going to get into it because it's going into stuff we don't want to talk about. But just have a little look at no fly list and then enjoy the next hour of your life.
I'll do that afterwards.
On that note, do please keep it carpy, and it's goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from me.
Check out the website at www.thecarpcast.com. There you'll find extra content, merchandise and lots more to support the show, including our entire back catalogue of free offerings.